Well, hi, everybody. It's me, Biz. I'm a lot better than a slide. That's what I told them anyway. I told them I'd be more entertaining than a slide. I mean, like a picture slide, not like a twisty slide. Those are a lot of fun. But here I am, and I'm here to introduce today's IJA online festival content, and we got a lot of it. If you don't know me, I've been a juggler for about 25 years. I started off juggling at the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Clown College. I spent a year as the advanced clown for the circus, and then after that, I've had a comedy juggling show for a lot of years. I'm really glad to be here with one of my favorite institutions on the earth, the IJA, and we're going to be doing some really great programming today. We've got a panel about building international community. Later on, we're going to have how to do better juggling videos. We're going to have another panel with some Malabaristas. Then later on at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, lots of different other numbers depending on where you are in the world. I hope you can figure that out. We're going to have the Cascade of Stars today. We got a lot of really great stuff, and thanks for joining us at the IJA Online Festival. So the IJA, that's the International Jugglers Association. And I think you all know that, but I just want to talk about each of those letters a little bit in turn because, hey, they're still getting the panel ready on this other screen that's over here virtually. So we're going to talk about juggling. We all know what juggling is. We've argued for years about the definition. Jay's about to come out with a 13-part podcast about what juggling is about. And it's great. And it's not multitasking. It's not that thing where like, oh, I'm juggling shopping and having to go to the... No, that's not juggling. That's just multitasking. Forget about that. That's it. Juggling is all of the things that are close to the three-ball cascade, either technically or historically. And that's what we're here for. We're here for performing, and we're here for people who have a juggling practice. I think about like when people say they have a yoga practice, I have a juggling practice. And it's just great to bring everybody who juggles together. And since we can't be together in real life this year, it's been awesome having this online festival. It's been really, really great. That brings us to the A in IJA, which is the association. The association is all of us together. It's not like some shadowy group of people on high. It's it's jugglers who have decided to band together to render assistance to other jugglers. And it's really great. We just elected a new board for the IJA. Congrats to the people who got the job. Here's the thing about the IJA. The IJA is not a somebody should organization where you just say somebody should do this and someone does it. The IJA is an I can offer association. And so if you can offer something to the IJA, we'd really love to have you. I didn't ever get any kind of real spot in the IJA. I just hung around until people started to use the talents that I want to bring. And that can be you too. It starts with your membership, and I just really want to get everyone to be really, really excited about the membership of the IJA. It's 3 o'clock. I'm not sure if they're ready. They'll type if they are. But I want to now talk about international. When I joined the IJA back in 2009, we were talking about international, and it was kind of a joke because the IJA was mostly an American group, and it mostly had American members, and we had a festival in America every year. And people were like, oh, the EJC is much more international. But let's keep our history in mind. The EJC started when people came to some of the first IJA festivals and said, we should do that over here. And I want to talk about something that happened in 2010 when I was at the Boulder Juggling Festival, and I met a person who had just been elected to the board of directors of the IJA. And of course, I'm talking about Erin Stevens. And at that time, a lot of the online content of the IJA was on rec.juggling, which was an online message board. And it was all text, and more than half of it was just like fighting over old stuff. And like when Erin told me that she had been elected to the board, I was a little bit snotty about it. I was like, oh, well, good luck with that. And she set me straight right there. And she said that she had a vision about how the IJA was going to be in the future. And I told her, well, good luck with that, Erin. And gosh darn it, if she didn't bring that forward into life, into the real world, in a way that I don't think any of us could have anticipated at that time. And now what do we have now? Did we all see it last night? The IRC show that they put on, how amazing it was, how it brought people from all over. So I just want to say that was just great, just amazing stuff. And I'm not sure if they're ready, but if they are, we're going to see a really, really great panel about building international community in juggling from the person who has done the most for that, maybe in world history. And a lot of the people that she has brought with her to talk to us about that. And I'm really excited to see it. This fest doesn't happen, and especially the online fest doesn't happen without tons of people's bringing it in. The board, who has done a great job. The fest team, who was working so hard to plan El Paso when they made the heartbreaking, difficult, but correct decision to cancel this year's festival, which was hard for me to hear, but they did the right thing. And then the online fest team that came together to get it going. All the performers, from the welcome show to the other show and the Renegade show. I don't know if you saw that, but there was some interesting stuff going on in there. The content producers, David Kane, who is the most memeable juggler of all, who's a great sport about it, but who put together that just fantastic compilation of juggling videos. Taylor, who's always building content for the community. All the panelists from all the really important discussions we've had. Really, really good stuff. Every year at the fest, there are these all sorts of little events that go on. The numbers competition, the juggling competition, the X Games, the championships, the juniors championships, the seniors championships, all the different things that happen have a team associated with them, and it's just amazing. So it looks like they're good to go for this panel. I want to thank everybody for being at the 2020 IJA. This is it. It counts. We'll see you after the panel. So it looks like they're good to go for this panel. I want to thank everybody for being.
You're all live.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Hello, and welcome to this panel, which is called Growing International Community. Today, we are going to be talking about certain communities in the world that have grown to have very unique and thriving circus and juggling scenes. And we've got some of the people that have been behind the scenes of organizing these communities and growing these communities that I have invited to be part of this panel. So I'd like to take a moment to introduce my guests that are here today. Coming from Taiwan, we have Andy here. Hello. Up very early in his morning to be here. Thank you very much. We have late at night over in Europe, we have Barrett, who is the executive director of MMCC Global, the circus program in Afghanistan. And we have Juan Mendez from Mexico, who is involved with the Periplo International Circus Organization Company in Guadalajara, Mexico. So thank you guys so much for being here. So we are going to go ahead and jump into conversation. Please, audience, feel free to ask questions also, and and give us thoughts that you have as time goes on. We want it to be interactive as well. So to start, I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves a little bit and tell us how you first got involved in the juggling or circus scene that you work with now, or that's in your region of the world where you work. So let's start with Andy.
I'm the first.
Sure.
Hello, everyone. Because it's very early in the morning in Taiwan, so
Okay.
I don't think my mind is clear enough.
Yeah.
I think in Taiwan, Erin is in Taiwan before, so you know the situation. You know the development in Taiwan here. The juggling in Taiwan is not so as strong as Diablo. The most focus for us is focus on the Diablo in Taiwan, because I'm not sure if anyone knows the situation between Taiwan and China, and I'm not sure if anyone knows the Diablo original from China. Because the Taiwan have a very special situation with China, so you can say the Diablo is some kind of political issues for the beginning in Taiwan. In 1965, the Communist Party conducted to control the people thinking. So they are starting the so-called the Cultural Revolution. So all the traditional Chinese culture will be destroyed. So after a few years later, in order to protect the Chinese culture, so the government in Taiwan started, they are thinking to start the protection for the traditional culture. So they select 7 kind of sports to be to representative the traditional sports of Chinese culture. So the Diablo is one of the 7 kind to be the protected cultural sports. So we said the government of Taiwan select Diablo, shuttlecock kicking, and rope skipping, lion dance, dragon dance, and kite, and the tops, the spinning tops. There are 7 kind of the traditional culture to be the official sports in Taiwan. So it's very unique. It's very unique.
So just to reiterate, so Diablo was basically the Chinese government decided to bring some sports to Taiwan, traditional historic sports of China.
Yes.
And Diablo was one of them.
Yes. And now the Diablo is the strongest sports in Taiwan, in traditional sports. Yes.
Wow. And so just to talk about your role in this, I've heard stories from you and other people talk about this, but you were one of the people selected to be taught Diablo and then to teach Diablo in Taiwan. Is that correct?
Yes. Now I'm 50 years old now. Okay. So when I learned the Diablo things 38 years ago, when I was 12, the government select some students start to learn the Diablo, and they have
How many students were selected? Do you know?
In my age, in my time, about 20, 25.
Okay.
20, 25 students.
Yeah.
And the government, they hire a teacher from China. She came to my school to teach us how to play Diablo. And we start learning. And after about a year, the government sent us to have performance, to have a national show around the island, to teach, to show how to play Diablo in Taiwan. So we have been visit many schools to teach the students to how to play the Diablo.
So that was the start.
Years ago.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to go to one of the other people and we'll talk more about how it's developed since then.
Yes,
but that was the origin of how it started. Super fascinating. When I heard this story when I visited Taiwan, I'd never heard anything like that before. And it's yeah, neat to learn about how it started. So let's go to the next panelist. Let's start with Berit from Afghanistan. She's not from Afghanistan. You can tell us where you're actually from, but who works with the MMCC in Afghanistan. And yeah, same question. Tell us about yourself and kind of how you got involved with the circus.
Yeah, thank you, Erin. So I'm from Denmark, and I first time came to Afghanistan. I was in Afghanistan in '99 during a lot of war and Taliban at the first time. But I came back in 2002, and I met David, who is the founder of MMCC, Mobile Mini Circus for Children. And so I was there as a journalist, and that was the reason why I came. And I expected that was what I was going to do for continued living. But I met David, who was in the process of starting a circus, and that was that was very special at the time where nothing was working. There had been a war in Afghanistan for forever, and there was no infrastructure, no nothing. There were no schools, there were no roads, there were no electricity, there was no nothing. And then there was this guy who had the idea of starting a circus, which naturally caught my attention and made me interested. And it was somehow, it made sense that because there was a whole country that was traumatized by all these years of war, and there was no living. There was a survival mentality all over. And then David, my partner, had got this idea that, to start a circus. And what better idea can you get than starting something that can engage hundreds of thousands of children and youth and create happiness? And it caught me immediately, and I got involved initially in helping to support long distance when I was traveling away again. And then I got more and more involved in trying to gain some financial support and organizational setup, and things that could make it possible to continue what he started, and what made so much sense, but what the entire development community could not understand at all. I mean, anyone in Afghanistan at that time was focusing on rebuilding the country, and that means building roads, building infrastructure. But what David had seen was that there was a need to rebuild life. And circus is just such a perfect tool to do that. So basically, we have been doing that since. So I got more and more involved, and I think, sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about the next steps and all of that in a minute. But that's amazing. And one thing that I want to know, so I've visited 3 times now and gotten to see MMCC in person, and am in love with this place. And the thing I found very fascinating is that neither you or David had any experience with circus before you got involved.
Not whatsoever.
Not clowning, nothing. But both saw the value that circus could play in the lives of these children and in the community, which is.
I think if I should add a small thing here, is that what caught me, and I think what has kept me in Afghanistan for all these many years, this is now 20 years ago, and what has kept me in the country and what has kept us doing what we do, is that circus, you can't find any tool that is more effective to bring joy and happiness, but also to engage huge numbers. So it makes so much sense. It brings life, and that was, I think, what was amazing was that David saw that at a time where nobody else saw that. But that was what caught me, and it's probably also what have catched you when you have visited us in Afghanistan. That circus can do something that nothing else can do.
Nothing else can do. I love that. It's true. And yeah, not only when I visited Afghanistan, but the very first time I saw videos in 2005 of the girls juggling in Afghanistan, it captivated me immediately. It's such a powerful tool. Great, so let's go to our third panelist, who is Juan Mendez from Guadalajara, Mexico. And yeah, Juan, same thing, please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your process of getting involved with the circus scene. You're muted currently, we can't hear you.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Berit. Good morning to Andy. Good day. Yeah, thank you, Erin, for the invitation. It's a really pleasure to listen about Andy, about Berit, and how the circus, the juggling is part of the life, no? And now we see it, no? Now that we have a lot of time, juggling is the best thing to live. Yeah, I'm from Guadalajara, here in Mexico. Guadalajara is one of the biggest cities in Mexico, and now is where the circus and the juggling scene has developed a lot more, like in the cultural, we're gonna say like site. Here in the city, the circus start a lot with in the streets, in the light traffics and that stuff. And we start to grow doing festivals. We do the Periplo Festival. There's been like, this year supposed to be the 8th edition. And our main goals in the beginning was to put the circus as a cultural aspect in the city. In the beginning, when you said, I want to do circus, nobody give you a theater. People said, no, you're gonna burn everything, you're not gonna be on time. But then we start to change that in the mind of the people, doing this festival that each year try to involve an international community. In that festival, we did the first IRC in the Barullo, and that was like from there is where we do a big connection by the international community. So that's like the Periplo. Now we have a cultural center, the Periplo Forum. There's been 5 years, so it's our theater, our venue, and I'm really happy, to see all this circus community.
Wonderful. Thank you, Juan. Yeah, we just had the IRC show last night, which was so neat. I don't know if you got to see that one, but it was so cool to have Santi there with me hosting the show and talking about Periplo and also Barullo and kind of this process that we've seen of development since 9 years ago in Mexico. And I'll say too that, yeah, when you started, you always told me you had a vision of making circus professionally recognized in Mexico. And I think by you doing that, we'll hear more about what it's become now, but it's very obvious that that's not only had an impact in your city, but also in all of Mexico, which is very nice.
And as well, the juggling has developed his path outside of the circus are together, but now the juggling community is very strong because they do festivals for only juggling, they have all the web stuff.
Yeah. And we'll talk about the present soon in our next questions. I want to welcome really quick Sosina, who just arrived. Thank you so much for being here, Sosina. I think you're muted right now, so you need to unmute your screen.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm here.
Welcome. So Sosina's coming to us from Ethiopia. I was sad that you weren't going to be on because I'm so fascinated by the historical information about Ethiopian circus scene that you have. So I'm very glad you're able to be on here. So we're doing a little introduction, just telling, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and how you first got involved, like what were your first steps of getting involved in circus in Ethiopia?
My name is Sosina Wagayo. I'm a former contortionist juggler from Ethiopia. At the moment, I'm a director of Gamo Circus School of Ethiopia. And I'm also a CEO of Ethio Circus Entertainment. I was part of the first circus troupe. It's called Circus Ethiopia. That started in 1991. So I am part of the circus history in Ethiopia. Yeah. So I've been living and traveling all around the world and lived also in Australia for 16 years. Now I'm back in Africa for the last 6 years to help out the next generation and help them technically.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next generation in the future part as we progress with the panel. But yeah, and one of the things you told me, we had a nice long phone call a couple weeks ago, and you told me that you were also the first graduating class of like the very first circus school in Ethiopia. Is that, or
Yes.
is that right? Yeah.
Yes, so the Circus Ethiopia is the first children's circus in Ethiopia. So the first company in circus in Ethiopia. But also I'm a graduate from the first graduate from the National Circus School from Australia. So I'm meant to be part of the history wherever I go. So yeah.
Great. So wonderful. The next question I want to ask you guys is, what was the circus scene like? And some of you already talked about this a little bit, but a little bit more in depth of what was the circus scene like when you first got involved? What were, things that were challenges, or was circus, immediately accepted where you lived, or what was the scene like? And for Andy, obviously, Andy, I just want to say for you, I when I say circus, I'm referencing Diablo for you. So I just want you to talk about the Diablo scene, since that's what you have been such a big part of. So for this one, let's start with Juan. We start this one.
Yeah, but well, the juggling impact in the community. Could you give me again the
Yeah. So what was the circus scene like when you first got involved? And you talked about this a little bit, but maybe like, when you first had a passion for juggling, what was the scene like in Mexico?
Yeah, in the beginning, I think like some years ago, the juggling is always more referring to the travelers. Yeah, Mexico is a big tourist place with amazing landscapes, and there's a lot of people traveling inside, and the juggling was more focused on the people that is traveling, working in the traffic lights, in the street shows. And you have as well like the more traditional circus with many good Mexican jugglers, Latins with very fast, and this Mexican Latin style that was really famous. And during, I don't know, like 15, 20 years to here, we have this Mexican like young people that didn't come from a circus family, and they decide to go study to Europe, to different circus schools. And when they come back, it's like the new contemporary scene in circus, no? Which takes from one side, like starting to do the juggling as a sport, or a different activity more related, like the skateboarding, the hip hop. So here in Mexico, like doing juggling with friends is really usual.
Yeah. But so in the beginning, it was this traditional circus, Mexican circus. It was the traffic lights. I know too, there was a big kind of hippie culture of the hippies in the traffic lights performing in the stoplights and things like that. And so that was kind
and with this, I think that's the past.
Great. Okay, let's go to Barrett now. So what was circus? What was circus before the circus program existed in Afghanistan?
I actually have two interesting things to say to this. So one is that we have, of course, when I arrived in Afghanistan, there had been war for more than 20 years. And of course, this is not the time where people do circus. They survived, people survived, and the rest had escaped across the world. So there are Afghans living all over the world because of all these many years of war. And those who were left in the country, they survived, and that was what they were good at. So we tried to dig into what is the history of circus, and there has been Afghanistan has been invaded by Russia. There has been a lot of Russian influence in Afghanistan, and by that, of course, also some circus troupes that had once in a while had come and performed circus. And we have met a couple of places where we can hear that when we talk to the old generation, the really old generation, they can remember, there was a troupe of circus artists that came and they were setting up near to the river, and they were doing a circus show. But what circus was, there was a couple of Pakistani circuses that had kind of coming once a year and doing a show, and people remember, the old generation remembers that. But what was circus? Circus was, Afghanistan is an entirely masculine society. So of course, what was circus? It was people being driven over by a truck, or walking on glass, or doing maybe fire, but things that was masculine, of course. And and this is a society where it is, everything is for the men, everything is for the male part of society. And then here comes the thing that we are doing, or that when I came to Afghanistan first, if I should say, how did I discover circus when I came to Afghanistan? I came, as mentioned, as a journalist, and I was going to do a story on a Center for Street Working Children, and that was where I met David, who had started this small steps of getting a circus started. And while I was there was an American artist, Seth Bloom, who was visiting. Long story why he was there, but he came to help David to get circus started, because as you also mentioned, both David and I are not circus people. We are good connectors, and we are juggling a lot of other things, but we are not jugglers. So through one of David's connections, there was an American artist, Seth Bloom, who came and was doing a workshop. That was a very first international workshop. And I still remember standing in that Center for Street Working Children, and he was juggling, I think, 4 clubs. Nothing huge, but enough to be difficult, and enough to something that everybody should say, wow, he's doing tricks, he's doing something that is amazing. Yeah. Nobody took any attention, because they had no idea that this was difficult. They had no idea. So it's kind of, why is this guy doing this? Why is this guy just standing there throwing things in the air and then expecting that we should be happy? Nobody could understand that. And I think that's, for me, that's a starting point of where the generation who lives now in Afghanistan, they had no idea what it takes, not only to juggle, but in terms of making a performance, making a show, making any artistic work, because nobody had explored it. There was no television, there was nothing. So there was literally nobody who entertained, and nobody who was artists, because those who were, they had fled the country a long time ago. So that was the starting point of our circus. Yeah.
I remember reading something online that said that when the Taliban was in control, and you can tell me if this is correct or not, but that like even applauding for things, like applauding in an audience, was considered illegal pretty much, or was one of the things not allowed. Like you couldn't even clap in an audience. It wasn't a thing. And so that's been a fascinating thing for me, which we'll talk about as we talk about how it's grown now, but seeing that really the circus is almost training people to applaud and to be joyful and to like
be excited. It's the excitement that was lacking. There was no space for excitement. And I still remember this show that Seth Bloom, the American artist, made, that you had a full crowd of kids watching, and they were just like this, watching with no emotions, because they didn't know how to react. They were just kind of, what is this? But it was also that they were exactly not trained to be excited, and not trained to be just watching something that doesn't have a meaning. And then if you allow me, get a small other story. A few years later, so this is where in the very beginning, we are in Bamiyan, in the center of Afghanistan, and we're doing a workshop. And at that time, we had started more juggling, and we had more teams that was more active. But we had a driver who was joining us for 10 days. And we made workshops every day. We made workshops for hundreds of kids, and we were making shows for the community. And this driver, he was just passing time, so he learned to juggle. So he was practicing every day. He was standing there and starting to juggle, and he actually became pretty good, because he just had loads of time. And I still remember, in the last day, 10 days, and he had so much fun. And we have photos of him laughing and having fun and being so excited. And on the last day, we were having dinner, And they say, why are you doing this? What's the meaning of this? Why are you doing this? And for me, that was exactly the point. He had enjoyed himself. He has had so much fun. He had even learned to get very good at something, but it was meaningless. It was he was brought up in a society where it should have a meaning. It should be something that where does it take me to? It's what is the meaning? So that was the conclusion after 10 days of enjoying. What is it good for?
Right. Fascinating. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for those stories. Super crazy to think how different the world is and how different circus can show up or skill sets can show up. And with that, I'd like to go to Andy again. So Andy, talking about, what was the Diablo scene like in the beginning stages, like when you were going to these schools and just starting, like how was it received by the community? You're muted right now.
Okay. Sorry. I'm Andy. The Diablo here in Taiwan, we focus, normally we base on the school level to promote the Diablo in Taiwan. And in Taiwan, there are more than, I think, 90% students can play Diablo, learning Diablo in the school. Because yes.
In the beginning, what was it like when it first started? Like when you first started growing the program, what was it like in the schools when you would go teach?
Okay, in the first beginning, nobody want to learn the Diablo. Nobody want to learn, but the government support. They said, okay, come to compete in the national event. If you win the title, you will get the money from the government. Your student can go to the best school in Taiwan. So it works. It works. A lot of schools come to join us to learn the Diablo. So in the last 3 decades, I think it's work for the development, and it's very quick to let the schools to involve. And the second level, the students start to learn the Diablo in the PE class, and we design the course. We design the Diablo learning in the PE course. So 90%, more than 90% students, they start to learn in the school. So it works to develop Diablo very quick, very widely in school. So the Diablo development in Taiwan is more. I want to say that it's focused on it's based on the school level.
On the school level, right? And that's what's amazing to me is what I heard about the history is that basically every school was required to teach Diablo at some point by the government, right? Starting like 30 years ago.
Yeah, 35, I think.
35
because
years ago.
I think Diablo has a very special meaning of sports because Diablo has infinite movement to learn. The students like to learn because they have infinite challenges and fun. And like juggling is also very helpful for children's sensory integration and coordination to learn. I think the juggling and Diablo is good for kids to learn. And my job, I'm a professor in a national university. So I start to create a club in my university 20 years ago. So I start to training, to teach the college boy how to learn the Diablo. So now I think it works. My students, since 20 years ago to now, I have a lot of students. They graduated from my university. So they're starting to learn, to training the students in Taiwan, everywhere in Taiwan.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and so we're going to talk. Our next question is going to talk about what it's like now. Go more into kind of what the scene is like now. But so that's super interesting to hear the beginning stages that the people didn't want to learn Diablo. That's just cool to know because it's interesting that now I feel like that's the opposite and people are really excited to learn. So, okay, let's go to Sosina. I see you changed your camera now and you're muted, just so you know. So same question for you is just tell us a bit about what the scene was like when you first got in there, like the first, you know, your experiences in the first circus school and first time traveling and stuff with the National Circus Company. What was
What happened was before Circus Ethiopia is formed, I was already doing contortion at the age of 6. I used to watch a variety show on TV every Friday where I start bending myself from watching TV, and I start performing to my parents. So that's where my performance starts, from the age 6. And then I joined Gymnastic Federation, where I found, I thought I was the only one in the world until I found all these kids who are doing gymnastics in Gymnastic Federation. So I started doing gymnastics, and the circus formed in 1991 by the Canadian English teacher, Marc Lachance. And it started actually in a compound where a Jewish Ethiopian stay in this compound before they travel to Israel. And so they stay there to learn about the Jewish laws and regulations, and before they travel, so they educate them. So there's a group of kids already there, and then us from Gymnastic Federation joined that troop to start juggling by just using rocks, and then start making juggling balls from balloons and all elements to learn how to juggle. And then quickly it becomes an interest, because there is a lot of young people who have got nothing to do. So there is more and more kids start evolving to join the circus. So the circus becomes a demand, and the local NGOs start, I guess, you know, supporting the circus, where we educate the community every Sunday using a circus about HIV, clean water, you know, like girl circumcisions, and all that kind of elements. We teach the community every Sunday using the circus. So obviously the juggling is a big element of that. And then quickly that became a world news, where people in Holland realized there is a talented kids in Ethiopia. By that time, we already start traveling interstates. And then we did our first ever performance for the Queen of Holland in 1995, with 25 kids travel a first time on a plane to, you know, to travel to Holland, where there is a long day and, you know, short night. So we never slept when we were there. So, and then it becomes, you know, obviously a world sensation, because it wasn't.
So you performed for the Queen of Holland as your very first international performance. That's a story right there. That's pretty impressive. That's not a first.
So everything is very cool for us. You know, the escalator on the airport, everything is new. You know, we're very excited. And then straight away we were invited to the TV show, and we went back to Europe again. And then by that TV show, a producer realized that there is a talent in Ethiopia, and then they start organizing European tour. So we became very, very popular, you know, around the block. So how the program works is very basically, there is a main performance group, which is the circus young people, the circus we're doing young people, and music section. So we have a live band, and then there is a team B, which is a second team that who are, you know, the second team that who's looking the main group to reach. So they are under us, under study. And there is a circus school, which is, it's us teaching the other kids. Even if we are teenagers, we still are teachers for the others. And then there is a street kids program every Friday. That way we take young people from the streets to introduce them to the circus. So there's 4 programs that time.
That was what existed before, or that's what exists now?
That was existed before. And we had a major donors like Cirque du Soleil, Oxfam, and Red Cross, and so. It was Angel.
I remember being told that Cirque du Soleil started some Cirque du Monde program also in Ethiopia, like in the 90s.
Circus Ethiopia was already existed. So Circus Ethiopia was already existed. when Circus Ethiopia asked support from Cirque du Soleil. So we used to get like sound systems and costumes and all sorts of supports from Cirque du Soleil. So that was a really good boost for us. But once we reached the European market, then they said, obviously, because it's a copyright, so we have to come up with our own costume. We start using our own costumes and materials to perform in Europe. We cannot use the Cirque du Soleil costumes because we start becoming international. So anyhow, these days, I mean, we don't get no funding whatsoever from the government. We don't get no funding from any sorts of funding bodies. How the circus runs in Ethiopia this day is there is a different schools. They teach kids, the young kids, free of charge. And then when they grow, become a professional, they put 10% to the school. So this model, it works. It makes it survive, but it wouldn't give us like a big, kickstart. So, but with that, with no funding, with zero funding, you will see all these artists coming out from Ethiopia in a very big major festivals and winning prizes. Wow. So that's something that we're really proud of. But obviously, what we're looking at is a structure. Like the government still need to acknowledge what circus means. And not only teaching the kids, but the technical aspect of it, like sound, lights, rigging, all that kind of elements is still in for Ethiopia. And that's what I'm hoping to do in the next few years, to explore that and to bring different.
We'll talk about the future stuff in a little bit here. So and one thing, I've been following the Ethiopian scene since 2010 when I first got on the board of directors for the IJA. And I remember I was like, okay, I'm going to try to find jugglers in every part of the world that I possibly can. And Ethiopia was the first one where I saw a video of a woman doing like 9-ball bounce, at least 7, with live performing with like a live dancer and live music. And it was just so unique and so engaging and beautifully performed. And I remember just immediately being like, wow, Ethiopia, what's going on in the circus scene there? So always like the performances that have come out of there have been so unique and so polished that I've seen. So that's really neat.
So for female juggler, still for female juggler, I mean, like it's a really taboo, not only in Africa but around the world. There's still a few female jugglers. And I remember when I started doing bouncing ball juggler in Australia, I was the first one. So that was like, it's still there is a way that young girls doing aerials and as a fairy style is more prettier than juggling. But I ensure that you can make juggling to as sexiest that you want as a performance.
Right.
You can make it anything. So
don't tell the government in Afghanistan though that you can make juggling sexy, because that's not good. Just kidding. We'll talk about that later, but just saying, it's one of the reasons why girls can juggle in Afghanistan is because it's not sexy, which is good.
So with Africa, we still there is still a few in the circus leadership, and there is not much at all, and not
I've
many
seen
women.
several really strong women videos, like Tersit, like I know there's a handful, but still a lot more men.
Yeah. So it's good to know about Afghanistan, though. Like it's good for me to research.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a fascinating thing too. I think also talking about female involvement. I know that is something I've talked about in Taiwan, also in the Diablo scene, girls' roles, and also in Mexico, the scene that women have. So I think it's a topic around the world that's very fascinating because it's different in every region. Whereas for the men, oftentimes it's not that different. Somewhat, but I think for women it very much varies on the culture as to how much involvement they have in juggling or circus. So great. So now I want to fast forward. So we talked about what it was like when you guys first started, and I'd like you to now just basically say, what is it like now? Like, let's look at the before and after pictures. What is Diablo, what is circus, what is juggling like in your communities now? How many people is it reaching each week, each month, whatever? How many circus schools are there? What is how is it seen in your community and culture that might be different from the beginning? So let's start with this time, I think, Juan.
Nice, thank you. Well, here I'm gonna talk from my organization. It's a Periplo. We've been doing this now like 10 years, doing professional, growing a community, growing an organization. We have 3 main projects. The first one is the Festival Periplo. In the Festival Periplo, it's more like a circus festival. We always bring one really nice juggler from all over the world. First time we bring Jay Gilligan. We work with Sombra, Carlos Muñoz, Wes Piden, Kyle Driggs, and we think that the juggling is always like the principal stone of the festival, because the jugglers want to come to a festival. It's a festival that each year receives around 200 people from juggling, aerialists, clowns. It's an interesting festival in Mexico, really focused on do circus in a professional way. Learn more technique. We do a lot of workshops of administrations, finance, how to make a dossier or a book. We try to give those tools to the young circus people. Another project we have is the social circus. We've been working on social circus with Cirque de Man and another organizations. We have different programs to work. We have now a really nice program that is about equality between boys and girls, but with the juggling and circus workshops. So it's really nice because all the things that they do when they are juggling, all these structures of you can carry a girl if they are not strong in the circus, is a really nice place to learn that there's got to be equality with people. And as well, we have the Cultural Center Periplo, that is now like the house of the circus in Mexico. It's an independent theater. We can put like 150 people inside, but it's an independent cultural center focusing on circus. So we have like 100 plays in a year. We have residences. We have creation workshops, and all the time, all the year, there's circus inside. Another thing is that we help to develop circus as a hobby. So that's amazing. I listen how Andy in Taiwan is like a sport. And when you mix with that is when everything grows and the people get focused in all the benefits that give you practice in circus. No, I think it's really nice.
Yeah, amazing. And yeah, just to talk from my perspective, I got to be at the very first festival that Juan ever and his team ever organized. It was a different name called Barullo, and yeah, to watch what it grew from that year to what it is now is just phenomenal. The progress and the process that they've gone through to take circus from a circus tent in a field to this super professional festival that they have now with a theater. Last night at the IRC show, I talked about the World Cup that will be happening, the first Juggling World Cup, and the theater that they had a couple years ago when Wes and Florence were special guests was, I walked in and Juan had said, this might be the theater where we have the Juggling World Cup. And I walked in and it's this beautiful, gorgeous, state-of-the-art theater for like 900 people, gorgeous lighting. And I was like, wow, what a difference from Barullo to this now, like with government funding and amazing media and
now so you speak about circus in Mexico, and you have theater, you have dance, you have music, and you have circus. Now circus is in the same level for the cultural programs, voice practicing. We're starting to do schools. We're starting to see it as a sport. And when I listen all these and other movements in the world, it's a good example to follow.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing example to show that, for me, what it's been is showing that you can change cultural perspective of what circus is. What people thought it was 10 years ago compared to what they think now, it's completely changed. And that's a large part because of the work you've done.
Yeah, and as how Berit said, it's amazing how the circus can do all this in the young people, with the families, with communities in danger, with people that want to have fun. It's amazing to put all together.
Yeah, super neat. Yeah, so a big change in that circus culture. So let's go to Sosina. How about we jump to you this time? So same thing. What is circus like now in Ethiopia? What's happening now?
At this stage, because the government been looking at if the circus is culture or sport, so we're pushing it under culture. Because we see all the other examples in all the Eastern Europe and all other countries, and we have to fall under the the Ministry of Culture. So and also we are trying with the government to more organized ways, because we have all these small circus schools that they survive in their own ways, but we have to have a kind of structure that helps everybody. And that structure is obviously like, for example, in Australia they have it, and all other countries have it. Why not us? So we want to put a circus as a label with dance and theater and everything else, because we even are greater because we travel around the world and we get a lot of employment for these young people and bringing a lot of hard currency to Ethiopia, and they're helping the poverty big time. So it's really the government knows about it, but to acknowledge it, I guess, like, we have to push it. Now we're trying to make association here and there, so we have a collective voices.
Let's talk for a second about what, like, because that's totally stuff I know you're working on for the future, and I know this association just started too that we can talk about in a moment. But the circus artists themselves, like, what level are the circus artists at? How many schools are there? Like, how active is circus in the communities compared to what it was in the past?
So there is a lot more circus these days. Even like in Addis Ababa, we have over 12 schools in Addis, and we have about 5 or 6 in Mekelle, and we have another 4 in Bahadar. And so there is more. There is about over 30 schools around. Yes, around Ethiopia. We have a country of 110 million people, and we have over 70% of our population is youth. And over 48% of our population is under 15. So it's a really young nation. And so with all these structures, it also comes with qualifications and what we know, what we don't know, how we can bring this knowledge to the country, how we can qualify people, not necessarily that all the qualified people are very talented trainers. So it's just, it comes with experience as well. But obviously, to start it as a school or proper school that has got the qualifications, or like, try to make it as any other country, it takes a lot from us. And all the schools generally at the moment, all the acts that you see, like a banquet acts, we don't even have a place where we hang a safety belts. But you do it right or you fail. So we do it most of the time, we do it right. Touch the wood. But you see a whole lot of very, very high level skills around the festival. And one of the things also we have learned is that to create the equipment in the country, so we recycle rubbers, we use different items to explore what it works for us, because we cannot import everything from overseas. So all those Icarian beds that you've seen, all the antipod materials, in the Chinese pole, the rubber, we use a car tire. We make hoop diving out of tire and metal and sometimes wood, and we use a bit of cushion, and it works for us. We use a little bit of magnets as well. So we continue.
We talked on the phone a couple weeks ago, and one of the things you told me is that often you'll bring in a model of whatever, say hoop diving, you'll bring in a hoop diving thing from Europe or whatever, the structure that you use for hoop diving, and then you'll talk to your local welders and your local, to figure out what local resources you have to then figure out how to build that yourselves, so that you don't have to have them shipped from Europe, which is extremely expensive, and then you can have the materials that you need in your country and create it there, which I just think is so great.
Yeah, but also like Ethiopia has a very nice leather. We export leather. So what we decide is we bring these shoes, you know, like the acrobatic shoes and stuff to the local shoemaker. We teach them how to do it. And they make these beautiful shoes out of this beautiful leather that works for us. And if it breaks, we know where to go. I think the main thing is the maintenance of the prop. So we know if it breaks, that way to find it. So that is that, but we have to learn about ratings. We have to learn it, you know, engineers and staff. At the moment, we do it with experience and knowledge we have, and thankfully that with all the circus community who support us.
Yeah. Also, just to highlight some of the acts that are doing really well. You talked about the Icarian act. That's like the foot juggling, where there's a person sitting on the feet being kicked up and flipped. And the videos I've seen out of Ethiopia are phenomenal for that style. I think you told me that Cirque du Soleil said that's the best Icarian acts they've ever seen come out of Ethiopia, which is awesome. Also, bounce juggling is huge in Ethiopia, and like some of the best bounce jugglers I've ever seen come from Ethiopia.
We are great on ground acts because we don't have the aerials, so we focus on ground acts. And a company like Cirque du Soleil start coming to Ethiopia the last 3 years, and this year alone they signed 30 artists, and they know. Yes, so they know that Ethiopia is a factory for Icarian, because we have a whole lot of generation who excel and top up the one before them. So what you see even 2 months before, what you see now would be like the full twist is double full twist. It's extreme. So there's a lot of competition. It's like running, you know. If you're the best of Ethiopia, then you're the best of the world. So it's like that now. It's like that now, and I'm very proud to say, like in Taiwan, they're really great with Diabolo. We know where to go for Diabolo. You know, if it's contortion, now we know where to go to Mongolia. You know, so we're very proud that we get to that stage. I guess, like, I hope we grow.
That's great. Yeah, it's amazing to see the artists that are coming out of there. Also, just to say the professionality again that they bring to the stage every time I've seen acts recently is amazing. So Andy, let's go to you. What is Diablo like in Taiwan now? I've gotten to see it in person, but you tell us what it's like.
Okay, now I think the Diablo is, for now, it's a very common sport in Taiwan. As you can see, the kids play in the school, in the park, in the street, and at the time, a few years ago, I think the bottom of the pyramid of the sports has been stable about our work for the development. So I think the development can begin to rise. But 20 years ago, before there was the internet, I don't know, there's other people, other countries can also play Diablo. I don't know that. I would thought only the Diablo only exists in Taiwan and China before the internet. But as I saw, but the internet is coming. As I saw the Diabology, there's a video which name is Diabology, which edited by Priem. He's a French, and his team. And I was surprised because I don't know that. Wow, there's not only Taiwan play Diablo. So I discovered that European and Americans, they are also very good at Diablo. So I started to organize a team to participate in competition and activities in Europe and America, like IJA. And the first time I participated in IJA is 2006 in Poland.
I was there.
Okay, but I don't know you in 2006.
Yeah, it was the first time the Taiwanese arrived in the IJA festival, and everyone was like, "What? What is this? This is incredible!" Yeah.
So it's the first time that the player of Taiwan to participate in the international event, IJA. So I organized the team to IJA. So I only organize some official competition every year, including the Asia Cup, things 2007, I think, 2007. So now we have a lot of several competition each year. And I also start to organize an international body to help because we need the very strong structure. For example, without IJA, I think without a very good development for the juggling in the world, because IJA has a very long history and help a lot to organize the activity, the competition, the gala show. So I think it paid a lot of attention to develop the juggling. So I also thinking about how to make the Diablo worldwide, to globalize, to make it internationally. So in 2012, I invite, I think, 13 participants from 13 countries come to Taipei, and we start to talking to how to organize. So in 2013, in January, I still remember that the International Diablo Association is established. And
Yes.
2 years ago, we also helped to establish the Asia Diablo Association. And this year, we also established the European Diablo Association in France. So
cool.
this is another way to help the Diablo development in the world. In the past, I think 3 to 5 years, I also help a lot of countries to establish their national Diablo association, like Malaysia, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, something like that. So I think it is a very important steps to make the Diablo to move forward to the future. So
Totally. And I want to say that, yeah, in visiting, just a little reflection of my own on what Diablo is like in Taiwan right now. So the IRC has been in partnership with the Asia International Diablo Cup for 2 years now. Yes. It was the first IRC East Asia was held with Andy and his team. And I was just instantly so impressed with what they have going on there. Literally when they say like, every school has a team, a Diablo team. This is like true. And not only is it a team, but they have uniforms. They have their own like t-shirts that have their names and their styles of their teams that all their kids wear and like represent their teams. And each of the teams also has different styles based on who the teacher is. So you can see some teams have more of an artistic, dancey movement style, and others are very, you know, I can do 5 Diablo low because that's what our team does. And also like last year we made a video highlighting just how many people at this one, the Diablo Cup, could do 4 Diablo low, because 4 Diablo low is considered impossible maybe 20 years ago, or even more recent than that, 10 years ago. And now in this one festival, just so many different people could do 4 Diablo low, like it's nothing. And okay, that works. So I think really looking at how having this school structure that was set up 35 years ago now, you know, now the teachers of these classes are the people that, for example, have come and performed and competed at the IJA festivals in the past, that are really high skill level. Those are now the people being paid for their job to go in and teach the classes in the schools and teaching all the next generation to learn. So these young kids can do 3 Diablo low at age 8. And this just watching the skill level develop really quickly because of this sport model that's supported by the government. It's really impressive. Cool. Okay, so let's shoot over to Barrett on this one. Just so you guys know, we have a little less than 30 minutes left. So we'll finish this one, and then maybe for the next questions, we'll try to keep the answers a little quicker so we can try to get through as many of them as we can before we end. So Barrett, go ahead. What's the circus scene like now in Afghanistan?
So the circus scene is us. So I envy Sosina when she said that there are 30 circus schools in Ethiopia, and that's never going to happen in Afghanistan for sure. We started out with one mobile team in 2002, and that was a team of adult artists who had no idea what circus was, but was learning. And what we have now are teams in 8 provinces, 5 regions of the country, 7 provinces out of 34 provinces we have circus centers inside schools, which is a big achievement, because it's in Afghanistan, when you work with kids and youth, or kids, school-age kids, then you automatically belong to the Ministry of Education. And it means that you have to have an agreement with the Ministry of Education for anything you do. So circus will never be fully acknowledged in Afghanistan, but I think what we have managed is to get it as acknowledged as we can by having it literally inside the schools. And it means that we have our centers located inside schools, where kids from the schools then come as a kind of before and after school program, but run by us. What is most important by that is that we are using the circus and as an educational entertainment. So we have reached 3.5 million people, or almost 4 million people across the country since 2002, with circus in any of the shows. So in that way, circus came from nothing and is something that definitely has reached almost any province and millions of people. But I think what is the most important, and I know Erin knows that as well, is that juggling is unique in terms, it fits so well for Afghanistan because girls can juggle. There are almost nothing girls are allowed to do in Afghanistan. It is almost entirely male-dominated physical activities, sports, anything that is physical is normally off limit for girls. But because juggling is limited to physical movements with the arms, or to not be showing yourself, juggling is accepted. And due to that, we have a really high number of girls who are engaged in, the best jugglers are girls. It's also very much due to all the efforts that Erin has done with the IJA, the IRC, because IRC has for sure helped to improve the whole quality and push that up. But there was already, prior to the international juggling competitions, we have organized national competitions where girls were also very active in it. What they were not used to was to be acting as well. And that's and this again, where Afghanistan is a country where it's male dominated. Everything has to do with competitions, do as many balls as possible, or juggle as long time you can, but not really the sophisticated artistic parts. So I think where we are now is it is really in a different place, coming from literally zero. When I was a journalist, when I first time I arrived in Afghanistan, that was in 1999. I still remember I wrote an article about with the headline of "Afghanistan, a country in back gear," and that was in back gear, so moving backwards. And that was what Afghanistan came from, a country that was literally at that time moving backwards. It was there was no progress, but it was literally moving backwards from what the entire rest of the world was doing. And coming from that stage, and that's again what that's the starting point for remembering that it was not only zero, it was behind zero in terms of any physical expression, any artistic expression, any joy, any having skills for anything that was not directly useful for having a job as a laborer on the streets, finish. And girls and women were not allowed anywhere. But we have hundreds of really good girls and young female jugglers. We have thousands of circus kids that are passing through our programs each year, and we are performing for millions of people across the country. So that's what I think tells the story.
Yeah, thank you. It's really amazing, and I'm going to do a personal reflection on this one too. Just saying, yeah, the skill level when I arrived, because a lot of people online like didn't know about the Afghan circus before I started posting videos, like in the juggling community. Some did, but I had a lot of people who said, "Wow, you did such good work in creating this program." I was like, "No, I did not create this. Like, I'd been watching for 12 years already the progress of the students, and especially focusing on the girls, because it was so unique that there were so many strong young female jugglers there, and so I arrived, and all these kids the kids, mainly the girls, could already do 5 clubs. They were working on 6 and 7 balls. They had this advanced skill level that was also just very unique to Afghanistan, because like you said, they just had endurance competitions. That was the national competition, like who can juggle 5 balls the longest, who can juggle 3 balls the longest. 3-hour-long competitions of 3-ball juggling for like 6-year-olds. It's crazy. And so they just had this focus on endurance of how long you could do things. So that was kind of my focus coming in, was teaching, look, there's other tricks, and there's other kinds of juggling, and there's other creativity that you can add, and also character and presentation. But seeing their commitment, and again, I think it's because it's competition driven, and Afghani kids are incredibly competitive. Oh my gosh, possibly the most competitive people I've ever met. Because they have the IRC each year, they've really advanced with their creativity and their performance in such a powerful way, because they had something to work towards every year with the IRCs. And so it's been amazing to watch that progress too. Very cool. Thank you, Barrett. And yes, what it does for the girls there too, I think is really a unique and powerful thing to see how because the girls are winning competitions, that doesn't happen. Girls beating boys in competitions in Afghanistan, like that doesn't happen. And so the fact that they are, I talked about this a little I planned to talk about this last night, and I don't think I did, but I was there when 2 girls won medals, a gold medal and a bronze medal in the national competition. And we got on the all girls bus, because you can't have girls and boys mixed on a bus because everything's separate. So it was an all girls bus. And like the curtains were closed on the bus because you can't see inside these things either. And the girls just got to like clap and celebrate and like sing songs. And don't tell anybody this. Sorry, I'm saying this publicly, and they just celebrated the girls winning, because they felt such a sense of joy and pride that girls could win and beat the boys, which is awesome. Very cool. Okay, so we are getting down on time, so I'm going to skip ahead on a couple of these questions. And one thing I want to ask, I know we have some questions from the audience too that I do want to be able to address. There's one person I saw who said she's specifically here from India and is looking at ideas for how to progress the juggling scene in India, which is wonderful. Thank you for being here, because I've actually been paying attention to the India juggling scene and wanting to connect more with that scene to see how we can help grow that scene also. But anyhow, I thought a cool thing to say for people who are interested in building communities, like, are there any specific obstacles that you faced or that you feel like your culture faced as you were growing, as the circus scene was growing? Was there any cultural resistance or funding or obstacles that you had to overcome to keep the circus scene growing? So Susina, let's start with you this time.
In Ethiopia, one of the challenges is basically, as I said, all the circuses are self-funded, most of them. Most of them are self-funded. So basically, if you don't have a job, then there is no school. We teach the kids free of charge. The other thing is, I guess, like still, approaching the young girls to come along to the circus. We still have some, but we wanted to have more. But they also have, domestic responsibilities at home. So to convince people, have a very big success rate this year, like the last few years, obviously, that we get a lot of employment all over the world that also help young people to join the circus schools. But our biggest challenge is, I guess, like, because Ethiopia is a third world country, like almost 99% of our students are from underprivileged families. So, we don't know that if they ate well to come and train, you know what I mean? Condition they have at home is not really 100% sometimes. So really, with that determination to come in to achieve this much, it's incredible. But for us to grow as industry, obviously, we have to focus on now, especially now with COVID. I think about it a lot, how we can actually grow the circus industry nationally. I mean, we have a lot of employment overseas, but how are we going to grow it inside the country with, making the government aware of it, but also how we can make it bigger in our country as well. So the people of Ethiopia have a privilege to see these world-class artists very often. So So it's amazing to hear about Afghanistan and to see the girls, to hear all this story, to have this opportunity to meet with all you amazing people, to see, what circus does. Like we cannot call ourselves as a social circus. We are a social international. Really, the levels are. It's not like, we're teaching kids from underprivileged background. No, these kids are real professionals. So I guess I have been focusing on a lot, not selling the poverty at all. I'm selling the talent, and I'm selling, how amazing these young people are. It's full stop. So the world should employ them as they are a world-class artist, not because where they come from. That should be the plus, actually. So I have been promoting a lot with our company, how talented they are. I will never, if you see the pictures that I post, they're like really incredibly, these beautiful young people and men and women dressed up so beautifully, elegant with our own culture. So this is the future of Ethiopia.
Outline that what you're saying a little bit more, just reflect on it, is that what you're saying is Ethiopia, you told me this too when we talked recently, is that basically Ethiopia is seen as kind of this third world poverty country, and that's how the news sees it. That's how it's portrayed everywhere else in the world, is poor kids who need money to survive. And what you told me, and I love this, is that you don't want to use that to market your circus. You don't want to use, oh, look at us poor starving children, to market the circus. You want to say, look, we are professional, we're talented, we're at the same level as the European circus artists, the Russian circus artists, the American circus artists, Latin American. And I love that you're wanting to show this other side of Ethiopia that exists. And you told me too, like the portrayal of this poverty-stricken place is like from the 1900s, it's like, it's not modern anymore. It's not an accurate portrayal of what Ethiopia is. And so you're really wanting to share the true Ethiopian culture, which I think is
yes, we have so much to offer. Obviously, how much of the story the world know is incredible. I mean, it's a birthplace for coffee. Ethiopia is the only country that is not colonized. There is so much to offer, but beyond that, we have so much talent to offer to the world. So I think it's a very important point.
Amazing. Okay, really great. Thank you guys. And or thank you, Sasina. So then let's say to Andy, what for you have been some of the challenges in the process of growing the Diablo scene to what it is now? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay, now we are working for a grading system for Diablo. We want to grab the system, and because the Diablo, the changes, the tricks and the performance for Diablo is we have many different way to performance. So how to compare the skills and how to compare the good one or the winner or the loser in the game, how to judge the performance is our next challenge, because when you organize the competition, we have to fair to play. We have to create a fair environment for all the participants. And when the game is fair, all the participants, they will accept and they will involve the the competition. They will encourage them. So now we are working for the grading system for Diablo, as well as the grading audit and certification, and we want to level up the level for the students. And I think this is the most important for us. The next step is the most important next step for us. And the next step is we also want to play a role to connecting the China side and Western side, because all of us know that the Diablo is originally from the China, but the way to play the Diablo between China and Western world is totally different. They also have very good skills in the circus, but in circus they play Diablo like they combine the Diablo and the tumbling, and they are very high skills, and they also very good skills for the one side Diablo, for the elder people. They play in the park, and the way they play is totally different. And in Taiwan, we also speak Chinese. We also speak the same language, but with China. So I think we should to play a very good role to connecting the China and Western world to combine together to make the next step.
Very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and I know, I've heard you talk too about with the International Diablo Association and the Asian Diablo Association. There's now competitions happening all the time in these different countries. I know like now Russia's involved too with the competitions, and that you have interest in growing that model into the future too. And so, my compliments to you on your international vision of spreading this Diablo energy from Taiwan. And it's fascinating that the art form came from China, but then really evolved and exploded in its whole own way once it was brought to Taiwan, that in a way that doesn't exist at all now in China.
Yes.
Okay, Barrett, any challenges? Just a couple, I'm sure, just a couple challenges in growing the circus scene in Afghanistan, but any that jump out at you as?
I think what my biggest fear right now is actually that this Corona situation is making a pushback in Afghanistan back to the survival rather than living. And that's what I think that's our main concern currently, is how we are not how we don't have to go back to the many years that we spend on teaching people to live and teaching the kids to get a chance to be children and use circus to have fun and improve their skills through that. Where now the country has been locked down for several months, and now it's gradually opening again. And we are very soon launching a festival that, of course, is a Corona festival, but it is basically comes from a wish of making a back to life, remember life, and find that rhythm again. And the sad thing is that that the summer is a time in Afghanistan where we can normally make these juggling competitions. And these, as you also mentioned, that the Afghans are competitors. So this annual juggling competition is basically the encouragement throughout the year to keep juggle and keep practicing and keep improving yourself. So we are trying now to organize smaller scale regional juggling competitions, and then hopefully a national online thing, but something where we can keep the encouragement going and get the best of the kids, the most active jugglers in the regions that has been locked down for months, get them back to life. And
Right. And I just want to talk, because I know this is an issue for right now, but the question too is like, what have been challenges along the way? And we only have 5 minutes left on the panel. So, but just one thing, I know as far as challenges that exist.
But the challenge in Afghanistan is stigma. The challenge is that it's a survival mentality, and it's a masculine society where everything is this muscles and power, and so art and culture doesn't have any value. It has surely increased since 2002. But in general, it doesn't have a value that ever makes it possible to grow. I envy Taiwan that can have it almost as part of a curriculum, and Mexico, where you can have circus equal to different kind of sports. I envy you, and of course we will work for it.
Yeah, I'm going to just interject really quick. Just some specific challenges that I know you've faced too, that have affected the IRCs and things, especially in recent, well, always, but in recent years, I watched how it progresses. Security issues is always a thing. Also, getting the rights to have girls and boys train in the same facility has been a huge piece of work on your part. And I know it's something you really pushed for, but that was not easy to do. And it continues to be a challenge. And only out of the 7 or 9 provinces where you have programs, only 4 allow women to participate in the programs, and the other 5 girls cannot participate, just based on the cultural differences in between the different provinces. So I know those are some challenges I've seen, and there's so many others within the infrastructure of Afghanistan.
And funding. I mean, there's no money allocated for any of the kind of things that we are doing. So it's.
We have 3 minutes, and I do have to stop on time. So Juan, you have a quick moment to answer this question. Just any obstacles that you've overcome as part of growing into what exists now?
Yeah, for us, I think that the biggest challenge is where we are now, because we are more focused always like into these festivals and have a lot of presentations in our venue to make things for more people, you know, to get groups. And now this is not what is coming, yeah? So we need to start to think more in the people around, yeah? In our theater, we always want to bring people from other countries, people from other states, but for now, it's got to be the neighbor, it's got to be the person of the front, because it's the only people who will come, or is the possibility to come. And as well, our festival is gonna be really more for Mexico, with Mexican artists, with Mexican people, because as well, it will be not a big budget to bring people, there will be no plane. So I think that's gonna make to grow more the community, like the national community, try to get focus on the people who is making a good work, and take that like for a chance to think in the Mexican community more.
Wonderful. Yeah. No. Yeah. I think that's.
And as well, what I say in the beginning is that now we see how value is to know to juggle. You know, it's something you can do in your home. You can share with the people, feel alive, and that's something beautiful now for the juggling.
Yeah, from our screens now we can share the passion of juggling, which is good. But yeah, this whole international thing happening, I think, is a challenge for all of the arts right now. But opportunities like this panel, have come out of this situation. So that's pretty neat to see what things are growing in our communities. Great. So just to respect the time of the IJA organizers, I'm going to wrap this up. I do want to say the last thing I wanted to talk about that we're not going to have time to talk about, but maybe we can continue to talk about this as a group, and it's something I just encourage you guys to think about as organizers, and anyone else in the community who is an organizer within the juggling community, is what are our next steps now? Because there's so many different, as we learned today, there's so many different and unique juggling communities around the world that exist, that have been growing independently and creating their own scenes independently. And I think it's super fascinating to think about how can we now unite internationally and start working together to start building international community more. And I know each of you have focused on that too in your own programs and in your own communities, is starting to think about more the international connectivity. And, you know, for me, we're working with the IJA, just always looking at how the IJA can help support and in highlighting and showcasing these different communities that exist in order to help support the progression in all the places. So thank you guys so much for being part of the panel, and all the different hours of time zones that you're in for getting on this call. I saw a lot of questions and engagement happening on YouTube and also in the Zoom chat. So if you guys have a chance to go look at those and answer any of the questions, if you're able, that's great. Any last closing word from you guys?
Well, I just want to say that the first World IRC is supposed to be in Mexico. So when we're going to have it, we will be happy to receive all your representatives.
Yeah. Excellent.
Coming.
Welcome to Taiwan.
No, yeah, sorry.
Thank you so much for inviting us, and it's amazing to meet all these incredible people. Let's hope that you can come to Africa, and it's a pretty and nice weather too. And yes, we would love to have you all. I can be a good host.
I believe that.
Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah. All right. Bear,
And thank you for joining us. I mean, so one special thing about Afghanistan is that Afghanistan is probably the most isolated planet on Earth, or place on the Earth. And that's where these connections are extremely valuable. I really value the work that you're doing to connect countries, including Afghanistan. I think it means more than you believe, you know.
Wonderful. Thank you, Barrett. Okay, thank you all so much. Have a wonderful day or night, whatever time it is. And we'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Wow, that was just wonderful, wasn't it? What a fantastic panel that was. I think I'm being heard. Type to me if I am. But really just a fantastic panel from all of those international participants. And wow, just I can't believe what a great amount of community juggling can build, and it just really always surprises me. Thanks so much to Erin and to all those participants. And we're gonna move right on to the rest of our programming for today. One of the greatest things that's happened in juggling while I've been there has been how video has transformed juggling. How I remember I learned a trick, a Diablo trick, from 1.5 seconds of a Cirque du Soleil commercial that I had on VHS, and I would rewind it and just to see those couple seconds. And sometimes you would have to beg a hippie and to do a trick again, and they wouldn't. And now we're at a point where people have been making amazing juggling videos, and that started with some tutorials. And our next presenter made tutorials back in the day that were some of the best ones. And now that we're in the social media age and we're having a lot more interaction with these videos, she's the top of the heap on this thing. So I think you all know who it is, and I'm just gonna start it off right now. Let's hear it for Taylor Glenn, who's gonna teach us about how to make better juggling videos. Take it away, Feathers.
Thanks, Biz. What a great panel that just was. Oh, I feel like my brain is not in a place to now talk about video, but we're going to talk about how to make better juggling videos. That's what my workshop is on. Welcome. Thanks for showing up. I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. I don't know why. I teach juggling all the time online, but teaching video is kind of new for me. So I'm excited to teach you some things that will hopefully help you make better juggling videos. Before we jump into it, I do want to say that I don't claim to be the end-all be-all knowledge of video making. I do have a lot of experience in that topic. I went to film school, and I've been working in the film industry for the last 7 years as a film editor in Los Angeles. So I do have some knowledge, and I'm excited to share it with you. But I want you to go into this knowing that these are all basic fundamental techniques and sort of rules that are created so that you can have a starting off point, and then eventually you can yourself choose to intentionally not follow those rules if you'd like. So none of this is like the only way to do good juggling videos at all. But I do want you to be aware of these tips that will help you, and hopefully it will encourage a lot of you who are maybe afraid to make videos or feeling really stuck. I hope this workshop will help you. I almost said tutorial. That's how much I do tutorials. Yeah, so basically in this workshop, we're going to be covering a few things. We're going to be covering basic filming techniques like composition and personality and things like that. I'm also going to be covering gear and some things that you might need in order to get started making videos. And then I'll briefly cover a little bit about editing, but that's not going to go fully in depth in this workshop just because we don't have enough time, and that's a whole world. So hopefully that sounds good to you and we can get started. Sorry, you always need a dance break. I'm going to do my best to try to share my screen in this because I'm not a Zoom expert, but hopefully it'll go fine. All right, let's do this. Sharing the screen. Oh, just kidding. I got to open up my PowerPoint. Sharing my screen. Here it is. Look at that. This is how you make better juggling videos. You make a PowerPoint. So first off, I want to talk about equipment. One of the biggest obstacles to making videos is having the equipment to do that. A lot of people I talk to, they think that they can't make videos because they don't have the fancy cameras, or they don't have the fancy editing software, or they just don't know where to start. So that being said, I want you to know that you can get going with any sort of equipment that you have, especially one of these nice little phone things. Hopefully you can see me. Yeah, these nice little phone things are amazing. You can, sorry, I'm also keeping track of the YouTube and it looks like it's a little frozen. But our phones are amazing cameras, and a lot of people think that they need to have a fancy DSLR or real camera in order to make a juggling video. Obviously, that's not true. As we've seen with social media being amazing, this is the best camera you can have because most people have one, and the cameras in this software, the camera software in these phones are actually really incredible a lot of the time. So that being said, if you want to amplify things and make it even better, which I encourage you to do if you're at all interested in video, you should do that next step and get something like a camera, a DSLR, a GoPro even. That being said, I actually do not personally like GoPros. They're not my favorite type of camera. A lot of people ask me, a lot of jugglers specifically ask me if they should buy GoPros. I think they're very expensive for how much you get out of them. They have a very particular look, and they're pretty much only good for that. So if you actually want to make a variety of types of videos, or even just, in my opinion, get more bang for your buck for what you're doing, I think GoPros are not personally the way to go, but look into it. And if you want to get one of those, they're totally an option. What I use is a DSLR. This is a DSLR. It's a fancy word for a camera. It's a camera, and then it has removable lenses, which is great. That's what allows me to get some awesome looking shots for my Instagram or my YouTube, if you're familiar with those things. But that being said, I really think this is a great option. If you just have a cell phone and it has a camera that doesn't look totally crappy, don't feel like you have to spend a lot of money in order to make videos. I think you'll be surprised how what we're going to talk about next can really transform the way that you make videos, no matter what kind of equipment you have. That being said, tripods are very, very important. You need to have a tripod. If you're going to get anything, this is what you need. This is a nice little tripod. It's very, very affordable. I think this was like $20. They're great. They've got a little mount at the top for your real camera if you have one. But if you just have a phone, you can get a nice little attachment. I'm actually gonna come back full screen so that you can see me. This is a nice little attachment for your tripod. Look at this, see? You can put it there. This thing will save your life if you are filming yourself juggling, because you can put your phone on it like this, and you can put it on your tripod. Tripods are super, super essential. I cannot stress enough how much I think that you need one of these, because what it's going to do is it's going to give you freedom to get different types of shots and to get, honestly, better shots. A lot of jugglers I see, even if they have a camera, they will put their stuff at the bottom, and like they'll put their phone on the floor and try to tilt it up and try to get their juggling. That's a choice. You can do that, but you're probably going to be really limited, and you're going to get frustrated really quickly because there's no movement in terms of like flexibility of where you're pointing or anything like that. Tripods are great. They allow you to go up and down. They can go side to side, and you can go height differences. So you should do it. Just get a tripod. They're very cheap. And even if you're using your phone, it's just going to open up so much more creativity. And that's what video making is all about. Somebody asked if we can use an iPad. You can. Again, I think having a camera at all is helpful. I think iPads are probably the worst option that you can use, just because typically iPads are really not good at capturing movement. It's going to be very similar to a very cheap webcam. So you're going to get a lot of like choppy blurriness unless you're in really good lighting or like really close to it. You can play around with it. If you have an iPad, give it a try and see if it works. My experience, I don't like iPads. I think phones tend to be better because they're just better equipment overall. Somebody real quick wanted to, they asked if you should ask questions in the chat or in the Q&A. I'm going to try to keep an eye on both, and I'm going to try to answer questions as I go, but also I will do a bigger Q&A a little bit at the end if we have time. So yeah, very important, tripod. Also, if you want to upgrade, you can get a whole DSLR business. All this other stuff is just bonus. You don't need it, but the camera is really great. And if you do want to get more into it, you can get a DSLR with different lenses. This is a lens that I use when I shoot my tutorials. You'll see that really nice blurry background. That's that lens. This one is really good for really high juggling patterns. We're going to get into that in a little bit. That being said, I'll go back to sharing my screen. There is this link right here, kit.co/tailortries. If you go there, you can see all of the equipment that I use personally. There is a few, actually, yeah, no, that's good. There's a few different links on there of all the things that I use when I film my videos, like the high-end stuff. I also have a kit specifically that I have picked out for if you have a budget of like $1,000, if you have a budget for $500, things like that. So go over there. I have the cameras that I recommend for those different price tiers, you know, and hopefully that will help. So definitely go do that if you're interested in purchasing a DSLR. Okay, so let's talk about actually making videos. So the first thing that I think is important to do when you are looking at actually making a video is knowing where you want your video to go. Do you want to be making it for social media, meaning, or mobile social media, I should say, like Instagram or now TikTok? Or do you want to be making more of a long format video for YouTube or Vimeo or even like your professional reels? I think this is important because as you'll see, you're going to have different aspect ratios and different appearances for each one. I see a lot of people who clearly shoot for both, and so they'll end up having long videos on their Instagram, and that's totally fine. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But I think it's also important to realize that if you are going to just be shooting for Instagram, you may want to take more advantage of that vertical space instead of posting a long video on Instagram when it's going to be smaller and harder to see. So I always go into it knowing what where I'm wanting to put something before I film, just because it will help me with all of these things we're about to talk about of how I'm framing and what I'm doing even. So keeping that in mind, I have a couple of things for you to write down if you're interested eventually in the editing step, or just you're a numbers person. These are the aspect ratios of these different platforms. The typical one is what we see on TV and stuff, and that's 1920 by 1080. Those are pixels. You don't really need to know what that means if you're not familiar with it, but it basically means it's 1920 this long, 1080 this long. So you get a big, nice rectangle square. So if you're ever going into an editing software and you're trying to make something for YouTube, you would tell it that it's 1920 by 1080. I get asked a lot, what do I set up my sequences for editing for Instagram? That would be 860 by 1080 is this perfect looking square right here. It's not even a square, I shouldn't say it. It's a perfect little rectangle that will fit perfectly on Instagram. This, you can see I have intentionally put crops on it because I personally would rather take up the entire square. That's a whole theory thing, but even still, when I exported this video, it was 860 by 1080. So keeping that in mind, when you're shooting, you're gonna wanna shoot something vertical versus shooting something more horizontal if you're gonna be doing Instagram or TikTok. I don't have this on here, but TikTok is just like YouTube, except it's inversed. So it's actually 1080 by 1920. It's just this video on its side. So if you're, for some reason, editing for TikTok, which you don't really need to do, but if you are, that's what you can do. So we'll just take a look, look at these fun videos. So cute. I don't know. They don't need to be videos. You're just looking at the aspect ratios there. I know that might sound like a lot if you're not somebody that is into filmmaking or anything like that. Those numbers are just there if you need them. Don't get too bogged down on that right now. We're going to talk about some more helpful things right here. Oh my gosh, it's going to play through all these things. I'm so good at PowerPoint. There we go. All right, filming tips. Yay. So one of the most basic things about filmmaking, if you've ever taken a filmmaking class, you probably heard of the rule of thirds. It's been around for a long time. It is something that we figured out is pretty much the best way to get attention of an audience person and keep that attention. And basically the rule of thirds is very basic. You just divide up a frame into thirds. So there's 2 lines going vertically and 2 lines going horizontally. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Probably, yes, you can. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, what does that mean? Well, what it means is that then where these lines cross, these little points right here, there's 4 points, that is where your eye naturally wants to go when it looks at an image. It's the key points where your brain goes, ooh, I'm gonna look there. So what we can do is we can use that to our advantage when we're filming things. We can visualize when we're looking through a camera or on a screen with our phones. When we're framing something, we can visualize those 4 points. And what we want to try to do is we want to try to put the subject on those points. So you can see here, there is a dog and its head is on 1 point. And just in general, its whole body is kind of hitting those 2 points. It's really nice. On top of that, you've also got the fact that these trees are over here hitting this other point, and it's going to lead you down. If you do look at that point, it's going to lead you to the dog. So that's like a really, really great composed shot. Here we have a very famous movie, Jurassic World. I haven't seen it. I like the old ones, but it's a very good example of the rule of thirds. His eyes, his focus point that we're looking at, are hitting this top right point, and then also his hand is hitting the bottom left point. So no matter where you look, you're probably going to be hitting one of those 2 points, and they're also going to lead into the other one. Really basic. The good thing about this is that you can start to see this every time you look at an image. Anytime you look through your phone, when you're filming your friends or your family, play around with, what if I just move them off center a little bit and have them hit these little points? When you do that, I guarantee you, naturally, your image is going to be more interesting. It's one of the most simple ways to be effective with your filmmaking. This is a good point to remind you that these are all rules that are there so that you understand them. They're not necessarily the only way to do things or even the best way to do things, but it's good to know that they're there. So let's look at that in terms of juggling. All right, this is a video that I filmed, I feel like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago with Matt Hall. And it's just a quick little clip, and you can see it's a little choppy, but that's fine. That's not what we're paying attention to, right? We're paying attention to this rule of thirds idea. Very quick, like I said. Go to the next No, go to the next one. Yeah, okay. So as you can see, like this isn't even a perfect example of it, but when I was filming this, I kind of tried to keep that idea in mind. I have Matt over here on the left, kind of hitting, his hands are kind of hitting this bottom left bit and going up from there. Again, it's not perfect, but it's a choice, and it's slightly better than if I had just put him in the middle of the screen, I think. And then, oh gosh, oh my gosh. Do not scroll on PowerPoint. Got it. Here is a close-up of him, and I did the same thing. I put his eyes on that rule of third composition. I think this was a really fun video. I really like the way it turned out, and I think that using those basic rule of thirds rules helped make it way more engaging. You can actually see this on the IJA's YouTube page, this whole video. It is on, it's Matt Hall's IJA Tricks of the Month. You can watch the whole thing. I filmed it, I edited it, it was fun, but you'll see a lot of the rule of thirds in there because that's what I do. Now, how do we apply that to something like Instagram, right? A lot of us are not really interested in doing something for YouTube, right? You don't want to make big compilations. You want to make a quick Instagram video and you want to know how the heck Taylor made so many that people seem to like. Well, this is when the rule of thirds comes in, but with vertical. Now, I don't really know if there's an official rule of thirds vertical. I haven't really looked into it much, but for me, when I started making stuff for Instagram, I started thinking about it just as kind of half of the rule of thirds. So it's still 3 down because it's the same height, but now it's 2 across. So when I do it, I try to intentionally frame things where my face is sort of in the middle of that one point, and my juggling is down at the second point. I think this is a great way to go, and for me, it tends to make a very satisfying image. So if you're trying to frame your juggling, you might want to think about these how many lines is it total? 1, 2, these 3 lines that you can create, and just hit those points. Put something interesting on those 2 points. Now here you'll see that it's not my face that is on those points, but my hands are on one point and the top of my pattern is at the other point. So starting to think about this really basic film concept of the rule of thirds and how we can apply that to juggling. For me, I tend to either put my face or my hands or the top of the pattern at one of those points. Not always, and there are, especially with horizontal videos, but a lot of the time, it's a really good thing to play around with, and it can really help your understanding of at least focus and where your eyes are going. No, don't play that again. Okay, I'm gonna come back for a second and just check in and make sure everything is going okay. Let's answer some questions before we go into the next bit. Do I have a cameraman? No, I don't have a cameraman. It's very frustrating. I wish I did, but I almost always just put up my tripod. Very important, magic word, tripod. And then I also, I'll film a test of what I want to do. I'll come back, I'll look at it, I'll do another one. It takes me a good 4 or 5 setups before I get it good. So just know that, there's a little more prep that goes into filming yourself, but you can do it. I do not recommend just putting up your camera or your phone and then just like going and standing in front of it and then just hoping it's good. You should do a test. You don't have to run the whole trick. Even just throwing a ball as high as you think it's going to go and make sure it's in frame. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Prop composition. Somebody asked manual focus. Your phones have autofocus, so you don't have to worry about it. And I have my camera set to autofocus. I intentionally have a camera that's good at autofocus. But with certain shots, like when I do it above, I use manual focus. And again, I just do that test. I'll throw where I think I'm going to be throwing, or I'll stand where I'm going to be standing, and then I'll focus it. And if it's out of focus, I'll do it again and again until it is. So let's go back to the PowerPoint. This is actually a really good question. Somebody asked, for our phone, should we use the front camera? I personally never use the front cameras. The front cameras are always worse than the back cameras. And for me, quality, that extra quality is important. And you can really tell the difference usually between the front facing camera and the back, whichever one's which. But I always use the one that faces away from the screen. And yeah, that's where, again, that setup, test, come back. It's very frustrating, but you're going to get way better quality, especially if you're filming inside or in the dark. Do not use the front facing. I don't know which one's front. Don't use this one if you're inside. All right, back to the PowerPoint. Yeah, somebody says I have an Animal Crossing background. I am so good at focusing. Here we go. Prop composition. This is really important. If you don't pay attention to anything else in this workshop, please pay attention to this part. This is one of the things I see all the time, and it's really like the simplest way to ruin a video, and it's the simplest way, if you know this rule, to make your video just way better and more enjoyable. And I do actually think, like, these are rules that I've kind of figured out over time. Again, you can try to break these, but these ones especially, I think, are just, if you break them, you really have to do it intentionally. So the common mistakes I see are, here it is instead. The rules that you want to do when you're filming juggling, for example, toss juggling, you want to be able to see the top of the pattern where it peaks, and you want to be able to see your hands where they are negative peaking, the bottom of their throw. If you don't get to see the full pattern, it is going to be incredibly frustrating for your audience, like so frustrating. So here's an example. Look how annoying this video is. I hate it so much. I can't see the top of the pattern. It's very disorienting. I don't know where the balls are going. You know, not only a juggler wouldn't like this, but a regular non-juggler wouldn't like it either. It's like you can't follow what's happening. All that's going on in this video is I'm standing there and looking up because we have no idea what's happening. So in the same sense that when we're juggling, we have to see the peak of the pattern, right? Like you don't have to see your hands, but you have to see the peak. That's the most important part of filming juggling. If you don't see the peak, you can do that intentionally, but you need to know that it is going to really piss off your audience. Whether they understand that or not, they will just inherently not want to follow it as much. Now, you can do this intentionally where you don't, especially like in that Matt Hall clip where I was doing a close-up. That was intentionally sort of a break from the juggling, and it was done to show him. He was the focus. But if I'm just showing a juggling trick, you got to show the top of the pattern. That means if you're doing a 9-7-5-3-1, you have to show the 9, not just the 7-5-3-1. Here's the opposite problem where a lot of the time my hands are out of frame, and then also I'm doing like 7-4-4. Like I was saying, I have to be able to see the 7-4-4. I can see the 5 balls, but I can't see that high throw. It's just going to be frustrating. It's kind of in the middle, right? It's not the worst clip ever, and I can deduce what's happening, but it's not something I'm going to watch over and over again because it's satisfying, right? So keep that in mind. You have to see the top of the pattern and the bottom of the pattern if you want it to be fully satisfying. Here's a much better clip. I can see my hands, the full extent of my hands. I can see the top of the patterns. I'm doing 6-4-5. I can see the 6. I mean, just take a moment and look at these two clips and acknowledge for yourself how annoying this clip is for you to watch versus this one. And all I did was change where I was standing because I wanted to make sure my props were in there. I mean, I changed a little bit of the composition, but that was mostly just because I was moving around. But either way, keeping that in mind, you want to, I think that's the most important thing, that if you're trying to show juggling, make sure you show the juggling, show the pattern. Do not cut it off on the top and don't cut it off on the bottom, unless you're doing it intentionally for artistic purposes. So this is also just a better shot because look how cool these piers look, these pillars, and this, it's like such a good shot. Anyway, oh, it's gonna go through all of them. Okay. This is the other most common problem that I see with juggling videos. And I do think it's a problem. I think it's very frustrating, and I think it's usually done unintentionally. And that is having a really busy background when you're juggling something that's like balls, for example. This can also apply for clubs, but it's a little easier to see clubs, but especially when you're doing like a high number of balls, people will stand in front of trees and it's like, I can't see what's happening. I can sit there and like, okay, so that's what they're doing, but it's gonna be just, if the audience has to work at watching your video, it's not gonna be, they're not gonna watch it again because people are lazy. They just wanna be able to watch the video and see and get it fully the first time. So avoid a busy background like this. This can be something like a chain link fence. It can be trees. It's most commonly trees. If you stand in front of trees, and especially if you're juggling balls and there's a bunch of these little scattered holes, it's just going to be so frustrating to watch. And I see this all the time. You can stand in front of trees, but they should be more full and dark where the balls are standing out. Basically, you just want to avoid standing in front of something that's so busy that you can't see the objects that you're juggling. I see Matan saying that he's very guilty of this. Yes, we've talked about this. You're getting better though, and I love it. You're doing a great job, Matan. It's all about getting better. So those are the bad backgrounds. Now, how do you avoid this problem, right? The simplest way to do it is to just film in front of a solid background like this. Now, this is possibly more boring, you might think. I don't actually think it is. I think it's actually quite an interesting shot with this little thing over here and the window, and just it's cool. And I'm like slightly off center. Again, you can play around with composition. Start thinking about how you're standing in the frame. Start thinking about what background you're in front of. But at the end of the day, if your goal is just to show juggling, this is going to show the juggling way better than that tree shot did, right? So don't go in front of busy backgrounds. A clean wall is way better of a default than a busy background. That being said, this one is kind of a hybrid, right? This is busy kind of down by me. I can't see my body as well, but the most important part, the juggling pattern, and especially the peak of the juggling pattern, because again, as jugglers, we want to see that is pretty easy to see in this clip. So you can still make the background interesting. Just try to make it not busy. Another great option for this is to do a sky background. This is probably the easiest option. If you film in front of a sky, naturally, your objects are going to be probably a little either brighter or darker, depending on how bright the sky is and where you're standing. But they're just going to kind of silhouette really nicely against that sky, and it's going to look great. It's like, so when in doubt, you can honestly have your camera a little bit lower and just point it up towards yourself. Not too low, but just low enough. Again, tripods, they go up and down. It's amazing. Like this can go up to 5 feet high or 2 feet low. So play around with like, if, you know, like this, technically this shot was, if I just filmed it straight on, I would have been in front of a background of buildings, but because I was lower, kind of shooting up, I got the sky instead. So think about that. I'm gonna come back for a second, see how everyone's doing. Great, everything's looking good. All right, and some people are asking about personality. We're gonna get in that next. All right, let's get done with these fun rules. All my rules, gotta do my way. No, the size of the subject is the other most important thing that I see jugglers do. Sometimes I see jugglers do this very intentionally, and sometimes I see jugglers who seem to always do something with their size of their video in a way that I don't personally like, and it seems like they're not aware of it. So I just want to make you aware of it. Again, this is something you can intentionally do in a way that I don't personally like, but just know that it should be intentional. What I see jugglers do all the time is this. They show their whole body against something and they juggle. That being said, I don't think this is wrong. I think this is a great, interesting shot. I think it's cool that I can see my whole body. But I see that almost all the time from jugglers in a way that it doesn't feel like they're intentionally doing that. It's not as a way to use their body or even just create an interesting shot. It's just because they think for some reason we need to see their whole body. That being said, you can just chop it in like this. And now I'm so much closer to the screen. I can see so much more of the pattern, which is really what I wanted to show. And what did I miss out on? My feet standing there? Like, totally fine. So keep that in mind as an option as well. Think about how close you are to the camera, how far away you are to the camera. If we don't need to see your body, why are we seeing your body? Unless you're doing it intentionally, again, as like a framing piece of art composition thing. But do not just think that you have to do that because you are, the juggler. That being said, these are the two types of shots that I like to use the most. I'm kind of known for these shots, at least, in my head, I'm known for them. It's almost all of my juggling videos are these two shots, especially on Instagram. I have a cowboy shot, which is basically being shot from like the upper mid thigh up. And then I have a medium long shot, which is anywhere from like the shins to the knees up. So if you're trying to frame yourself and you're just like, what's a really easy way for me to do that? Keep these two terms in mind. You can look them up, but from the thighs up, great option, especially if you're doing like three to five balls. Medium long shot from the shins up or the knees up, another great one. Often a better choice than showing your whole body unless you're making an intentional choice. So here's an example of a cowboy shot. Nice and close. I can see the object really great. I don't have to see all my legs. That would just make the image so much smaller and harder to see. And it's just super satisfying. And then there's a medium long shot where I'm being shot from the knees area up. I get to see a little more of my body and my movement. But again, my focus is on the juggling. So I don't want to show my whole body unless I was doing more of a dance thing, but I'm not in this case. So yeah. All right, interesting backgrounds. Like this is a great example of what I was talking about before, where it's still very easy to see the objects. They're in front of an interesting, a clean background. That black background, it makes the balls pop really nicely, but it's still interesting, right? There's this arc around me. I've got this interesting reflection going on. Like it's framing everything to look at me directly. All this was just an apartment complex outside of my apartment. So I didn't go anywhere fancy for this. I just looked for an interesting background. But even within that, look for ways to still follow those earlier rules to make it more satisfying to watch. Shot variety. This is something I also encourage you to play around with. You don't have to do this like cowboy shot, medium long shot, or even a wide shot. You can change up how you think about showing juggling. It's not necessarily always about the trick you're doing. It's about how you present it. So in this example, I'm doing a 97531. I used the sky to my advantage, but look at how interesting this shot is. It was shot almost at the ground, and I get these nice big buildings framing me so that no matter where you look, it's going to bring your eye right back to the juggling. All that is just pointing the camera up. And then here is me filming from above, something that more jugglers are getting into now, which I love, but it's just thinking outside the box. How can you film juggling in an interesting way? Try it, see if it works. It doesn't matter. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I've tried filming things before and they look like crap, but I tried it. At least I learned. This is a question I get all the time of how come your videos look so crisp and like blurry in the background. This comes down to depth of field. Depth of field is the camera term for like basically how blurry something's going to be behind you. It's actually referring to how much space is in focus. And what that does is, anything that's not in focus is going to be really out of focus. With something like a phone, which is what this first video was shot on, I'm in focus, but so is most of the background, right? It's a totally fine video. I really like it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. If somebody posted this, including myself, I think it'd be great. Now it's very different looking than this. This is a very cinematic looking video. And all that is using, instead of a camera like this, which has a very long focal length, a depth of field, right? With your phone, everything's going to be in focus for like 20 or 30 feet or something. Whereas in a lens, you can get a really shallow depth of field. And that pretty much just means that I myself am in focus and everything else is super blurry. And that's really great. And I use this as almost a crutch all the time because it means that I can shoot in front of a busy background or something, because everything ends up getting so blurry that it's not distracting. And that's really helpful. But that being said, if you're using something like a phone that doesn't have that shallow look to it, then you need to pay more attention to those things like busy backgrounds and composition, because you can't rely on that nice little gimmick of a blurry background the way that I do a lot. All right. So slow motion is a question I get asked a lot about. I can't go too much into what slow motion is or even how you do it, but basically with certain cameras, including our phones, you can shoot anywhere from 60 frames a second up to 240 or whatever. The most common is 60 and 120. My camera shoots up to 120 frames a second, which is what you'll see in this nice little bit right here. Oh, it's like the Matrix. It's so cool. It's awesome. I love doing slow motion. It's pretty much my favorite. That being said, doing slow motion with your phone is not going to be as satisfying just because it's not dedicated to that. Even though it can shoot that amount of frames, you're going to have a little less control and it's not going to be as crisp. But I did want to say something real quick about editing slow motion, and that is basically something I learned a long time ago in the film industry is you want to ramp into slow motion on an action. So if you watch this video, you'll see that it starts to become slow motion as I throw those balls. What I see people do a lot is they'll start to slow motion like really early, almost too early before they even start doing a juggling trick. And you can do that, but there's a lot of wasted time there. And it's so much more satisfying when slow motion starts fast and then becomes slow. So if you're doing a juggling trick, like, even juggling in itself is movement, so it's great. But if you're about to do a trick like I do, where I'm throwing behind my back, starting the trick, it's totally normal speed. And then I slow it down almost like in the middle of the trick, right there, right? It's the simplest way to make slow motion look more satisfying. I know that doesn't apply to everyone because not everyone has editing software or wants to edit, but that is, if you are an editor doing slow motion, very, very helpful rule that I learned a long time ago. And I love it. Let's get into personality. This is probably the most important thing besides, don't cut off the top of the props. I get told, when I started making videos on Instagram, I had a lot of people theorizing as to why I was doing well. And it ranged anywhere from, you have a really nice camera, to you're a girl. And it really bugged me because I think at the end of the day, the reason why people like my videos is because of my personality and the fact that I show my personality in my videos. So just looking at these videos really quickly, this is a very dorky video. This is my brand, right? I am a dork. If you know me in real life, I'm a dork. If you know me online, I'm a dork. I do a lot of silly videos where I'm smiling, where I'm having a good time. I usually end with either a drop like this, or I even just do something silly in the middle. That's personality. Personality is like who you are. That being said, it doesn't have to be bubbly or fun or anything. There's so many personality types that people have, and whatever yours is, let it shine, play with it. Whatever makes you unique and different than what you see on the internet, go into it. For me, that was kind of deadpan funny looks and drops. That's what I do in real life. So I was like, I'll do that in my videos. And so I really encourage you to look at what you what is unique about yourself? What would your friends say is fun about you or interesting about you, or is your defining characteristics? And even if it's just, you know, like, I'm really serious, you know, Jason Garfield made a whole personality show based on being the really serious, angry guy. It's like, you can totally be whoever you want, but the point is to not be a robot on screen. If you're just going to be a robot and not smile or not frown or not do anything, then it's going to be boring. It's going to be just like watching a site swap generator. Let yourself shine through, even if it's just that moment of you adjusting the balls at the beginning and like looking kind of nervous. Like, just play around more with letting those things come out. Don't chop them off. For the longest time, it felt like jugglers would only show the trick from beginning to end, and that was it. And I'm seeing so much more personality shine through, and I love it. And I think that that's all social media is about, in addition to tricks. But more importantly, it's about personality. And I especially think that that's what video is about. It's like, sure, whatever you're doing is important, but how you do it is more important. So keeping that in mind, yeah. Last little bit on this PowerPoint, we're going to talk about editing. I get asked a lot about editing. Editing is a whole thing, and I cannot talk about it in this panel because it's just too much. It's not a panel, it's just me, this workshop. But that being said, I get asked a lot what kind of editing software I should use, blah, blah, blah. I recommend using a paid software, but if you have to use a free one, OpenShot is one I've tried that I really like. It's not perfect, it's not great. It is free and it feels like a free software, but it will get you started. You also can use something like iMovie or Windows Movie Maker. Those are totally fine, and they're often free, I think, with your computer. So definitely play around with those. Don't be afraid of them. Like, give them a shot. OpenShot, I think, is pretty similar, but like slightly a step up in terms of feeling more like a professional software. DaVinci is one I get asked a lot about because it's free and it's a really good software. That being said, it's not practical for most people because it is a processor hog. I cannot run it effectively and smoothly on my computer, and my computer is designed for film editing. You need a really good processor and a really good graphics card, and most people who don't want to pay for editing software don't have those things. So if you can use it, absolutely, it's an amazing powerhouse of great features, but it's very hard to use because of its slowness, and it'll probably crash a lot on your system. That being said, there are some really good paid ones that I highly recommend. Oh, I recommend them so much. I use Adobe Premiere. It's $20 a month, which is a lot, but you get 2 licenses, which means it's $10 a month if you can find a friend to split it with. And honestly, $10 a month is great for how much you get out of Premiere. It's a really great software. It's not that hard to use. There's a lot of tutorials online. It can take a little bit of time, especially because there's so many things in there that you don't need if you're just getting started. But that being said, I'll talk about that in a second. But I just think Premiere is great. And what's great about it is you can also, there is a trial, I believe, so you can try it out. And also you can cancel it at any time. So if you're really into editing this month, it's $20 and then you can cancel. They also, Adobe released Premiere Rush, which is its simpler version. It's kind of like iMovie, but better because it's Adobe. I really like Adobe Premiere Rush. I think it's a great starting point, and it comes with a mobile editing app. So you can edit both on your phone and on your desktop and seamlessly go between the two. Adobe Premiere Rush is great. It's $10 a month. Again, you get 2 licenses, so you can split it with somebody. And it's really good. I highly recommend that if you're really new to editing. If you don't want to pay for the kind of monthly thing and you're really tight on money, I think Wondershare Filmora, I think it's $9. I don't know what they're at right now, but whatever their current model is, I think it's only about $40 a year, last I checked, or you can buy it for your lifetime for $70. It's really good. It's not as good as Adobe. It's not as good as, Final Cut or any of those, but it's really good, and you can buy it all at once, and it will at least teach you the right habits to get started. So the rest of these are options like Sony Vegas and Final Cut. I don't personally recommend them, but people ask me about them, so I put them up here. that being said, I'm also going to be doing an intro to editing workshop where I talk all about how to just start from editing like you've never opened the software before and how to keep going with it. You know, all the things you don't need to know when you open up an editing software, all the things you do need to know. It's not going to take that long. It's really not as complicated as you think it is, but I don't have enough time to cover it in here. I'm also going to cover the interesting like theory behind film editing and what I call the heart of video, and that's pacing and timing and emotion. And it's a little harder to pin down, but I've studied it for the last 7 years and I think it's really important, and I would love to share my thoughts on it with you. So I am going to do this. It is going to be a paid workshop, so I'm not going to do it for free, but it won't be very much. If you want to sign up just to get info on it when it's available, it's taylortries.com/edit. Yeah. Okay. So this, I feel like I went really fast on everything. I don't know when that workshop will be. It will be fairly soon, in the next few weeks, probably. Somebody asked a mobile editing app. The only one I've used that I like is Premiere Rush, and that's the $10 one every month. I wish they would make it free, but somebody said Video Leap. I don't know. You can look it up. I don't use mobile apps. Does anyone have any questions? Let's see the Q&A. What kind of mount do I use? I have that listed in my kit.co/taylortries. So go click on that and it'll have the exact one. But there's a lot, honestly. It's just any sort of one that opens and closes. So I answered that. Would you ever show failures, drops? I always show failures and drops. Somebody wanted to know if you would ever show failures or drops or always just perfect catches. I always show the drops. That's kind of what I'm known for. So yeah, I think it's great. I don't think you have to, but it's kind of, I think it's a big part of juggling. So I like to be accurate about what juggling looks like. What aperture do I use? I have an, aperture. I am so tired. I can't see. The aperture is the depth of field, right? Yeah. It's been a long time since I actually went to film school. This is a 1.8 lens, and that's what gets that really nice depth of field looking look. People wanted to know about lighting. I've gotten a lot of questions about lighting. I light my indoor videos, especially when I'm doing YouTube like tutorials and vlogs, because I just don't have enough light and it's gonna look better. The lights that I use are these little panels. They're about $150 each. They're very bright. Look at how bright that was. Wow. And they're amazing. So those are great. If anyone wants that, you can, maybe I'll put it in the chat after, or put it on my kit. That's what I'll do. Outside is the easiest way to film juggling, just because you don't have to worry about lighting. But if you need lighting, there are some really cheap lights you can get. I know when I first started, I just got like a Home Depot $20 work light. Gets very hot and you gotta be careful with that, but it works. Any tips on making good looking cuts in longer videos? Yes, I'll cover that in that big workshop thing. I have a lot of tips on that. Music, I use a software not a software. I use a website called Artlist, artlist.io. And you pay yearly for it and you can get all the royalty-free music you'd like. It's great. The last thing I want to say before I wrap up, I have a few minutes, is that I encourage you to, when you're watching videos from other jugglers, there's a lot of jugglers out there making amazing stuff. Pay attention to what you like about the video, not just the juggling, because I guarantee you there's something else about it that you like. A lot of people just assume the most obvious, like, I like this because they're doing a trick I like. But a lot of the time you like it for some other reasons. You know, you like it because of what they were wearing. You like it because of where they're at. You like the personality they had. You like the way they smiled at the end. So when you're watching a video, think about those things. I learned a lot about videography from school and working in the film industry, but I also learned a lot of it from watching other jugglers that were really popular when I first started. You know, I can share my screen really fast. I watched a lot of Wes Peden, who played around with those interesting angles and played around with his interesting edits. He made sure you could see the props when he juggled them, things like that. I also watched a lot of Michael Karras, who did the same thing. He always kept those things in mind. He played around with different backgrounds. He made sure you could see the props easily. He played around with framing. So I encourage you to like watch a lot of jugglers and pay attention to what you like about it besides the juggling. That's how you get better. And then try to do the same thing. That's all I have for you. I hope that it wasn't too much information all packed in at once, but I really appreciate you being here. And if you have any questions, I guess you can email me, taylor@taylortries.com. But also, yeah, go ahead to go to that website, taylortries.com/edit if you're interested in learning more about editing. And I'll see you all on the internet. Yeah, that's it. I'm done. You can come in, Biz.
All right. Thanks so much to Taylor for that really, really informative and really excellent workshop on video. I know I learned a lot from it that I thought that I knew and that I didn't know. And so that was really, really great. I encourage people to really get out there and make some videos. We're growing the juggling nation with these videos, and it's just really fantastic. Taylor is one of the really best ambassadors for juggling out there. I know that I was at Juggling Club a while ago, and a couple of us were just talking about people in the community, and we mentioned Taylor, and two people at club were like, oh, do you mean Taylor Tries? You know her? I mean, it was like, you know, and so like these kind of micro celebrity moments are possible in juggling. And when you get to be a juggler, you get to meet your heroes. If you like Major League Baseball, maybe once in a while, you can pay a couple $100 to have like 5 seconds of a baseball player's time. But with a juggler, I mean, I've met Taylor and I've met Wes and I've met Jay, and you'll get to too if you become part of our community. I hope that we get much more of an integration with all of these international jugglers and all the other scenes, the flow scene, along with the juggling scene, which really ought to be the same scene. It really is. But, you know, so I think it's really, really great what was going on there. I mean, just another big, you know, we can't hear it, but I want you to clap at home, a round of applause for everybody who's brought this online festival together. It's just really, really great. Some of the people who I didn't mention earlier, but you know, who are a huge part of things. You know, we have the board, but I'm just going to mention one extra person who's not on the board is Afton Benson, who's does our treasury. She's just the best. She works with our accountant Dennis, who's really been taking care of us for a long time. You know, when they have to find out where the festival is going to be, you've got Mike Sullivan, who's been picking being the future festival site coordinator for many years. And now he's giving that over to Craig Lewis, DJ Craig, who is gonna like start doing that. There are just so many people whose efforts go into putting any kind of juggling event together. And there's room for you. There's room for you to bring your efforts to the community. And I just want to personally invite anybody who's hearing this. We want what you have to offer. We really do. I started just bringing games and nonsense to the festival for people to play with so that it wasn't always juggling. And now that's become a thing that people really enjoy. Like there's something for you to bring. And I hope that we'll all bring it together. Anyway, so that was really great. We're going to move on, I think. I hope. Tell me if we're not ready and I need to vamp. But our next panel is going to be, I got to read it. Malabaristas, Latinoamerica, around that other one says around the world. I took French. I don't know what I was thinking. Sorry about that. But we're going to have a really, really cool panel here coming up that's all about Latin American juggling. And as Erin has told us, we've been sleeping on Latin America here in North America. We have not
understood how important and how diverse and how much is going on in Mexico and Central and South America. And I'm not sure exactly who's going to be in this and how much more, but I'm real excited to hear what's coming up next. And take it away, fellas.
Hi, Biz. Thank you. Thank you for introducing the panel. And okay, buenas noches a todos los que nos ven. Buenos días, buenas tardes o buenas noches, dependiendo de dónde nos vean. Bienvenidos a Voces del Malabarismo. Bienvenidos al conversatorio de malabaristas latinos alrededor del mundo. Es para Voces del Malabarismo un honor formar parte del Festival de la IJA Online 2020. Quiero rápidamente aprovechar para agradecer a Erin y a todo el equipo de la IJA que hace esto posible. Y bueno, también aprovechar para que se asomen a todo lo que pasó en el festival antes de esto. Hay funciones muy interesantes, talleres, todo esto. Y también a lo que viene después. Después del conversatorio viene la función de gala, que es la cascada de estrellas. Bueno, los invito a que se pasen y lo disfruten. Bueno, por último, los invito también a que echen un vistazo a la página de Voces del Malabarismo, donde pueden encontrar entrevistas a malabaristas latinos, tutoriales y más cosas. Y bueno, nada, el día de hoy nos acompañan 5 malabaristas increíbles latinoamericanos. Voy a presentarlos muy brevemente porque lamentablemente tenemos el tiempo un poco limitado. Entonces presentaré rápidamente a los malabaristas, explicaré cuál va a ser la dinámica del conversatorio. Sin más preámbulo, nos vamos. Entonces, los voy a presentar como los veo en la pantalla. Tenemos de Perú a Lucas Hileri, es malabarista creador de la compañía Altpong. Con él tenemos un episodio en la página de Voces por si tienen el interés de conocer un poco más de su trabajo. Después a mi derecha tengo de Chile a Carlos Muñoz, mejor conocido como Sombra, una leyenda del malabarismo chileno y latino, bueno, todos, y creador de la compañía Sombra. Después hay alguien en la pantalla que no forma parte del panel y otro que no forma parte del panel. Y a mi izquierda tengo a Marco Pauletti, otra leyenda del malabarismo latino desde Argentina. Él es malabarista de la compañía Finzi Pasca. Al centro, nuestra presencia femenina del día de hoy, Valeria Jauregui de México, malabarista de la compañía Gandini Juggling. Y su servidor, que estaré intentando más que moderar, llevar un poco la reunión. Y también participaré con mi opinión. Soy Raúl Canaz de México, malabarista de la compañía Circo de Mente. Entonces, rápidamente les explico cómo será la dinámica. Debido al tiempo limitado, bueno, haré un par de preguntas. Cada uno de nosotros tendremos 3 minutos para contestar la pregunta y al finalizar la respuesta de todos, habrá tiempo por si alguien quiere aportar algo más en relación a las respuestas previamente dadas. ¿Qué más? Quiero aclarar que no es un debate. Lo que buscamos aquí es más un diálogo y una compartir de experiencia en pro del malabarismo latino. Y bueno, creo que sin más preámbulo, bueno, los invito a que sigan en las redes sociales a estos malabaristas por si quieren conocer más su trabajo. Chequen su Facebook, su Instagram y todo eso. Estarán en los comentarios. Y pues ahora sí, sin más preámbulo, para aprovechar el tiempo al máximo. También por último quiero aclarar que cada pregunta se responderá en diferente orden para que no sean siempre los mismos malabaristas los que contestan al inicio. Entonces, bueno, un saludo a todos los que nos ven. Perdón, ando un poco más nervioso de lo normal. Pero bueno, todo bien. Saludos a los que nos ven, saludos a toda Latinoamérica. Si alguien en inglés ahí curioso nos está viendo en YouTube con sus subtítulos, también saludos. Y ahora sí, vámonos. Bueno, ¿cómo están? Rápido los saludamos porque ni los dejé hablar. Si quieren, saluden rápido a la audiencia.
Bien, bien.
¿Todo bien? Perdón, pero aquí está la primera pregunta. Entonces, voy a hacer la primera pregunta y en esta pregunta, Lucas, tú empiezas. Entonces, pon un poco más de atención que los demás. Bueno, la pregunta es, ¿por qué decidiste salirte de tu país por primera vez? ¿Cuáles fueron tus motivaciones y o circunstancias que te llevaron a esto?
Para estudiar. para estudiar en la Escuela de Circo Carampa, en Madrid. Estaba la oportunidad de estudiar acá en el Perú, pero abrían solo la convocatoria una vez cada 3 años, entonces hubiera tenido que esperar como 1 año y medio. Entonces, sí, aproveché que surgió la oportunidad de estudiar en Carampa y fui.
La pregunta que sigue tiene un poco más que ver con el ya radicar en otro país. Entonces ahorita es más la pregunta orientada hacia cuál fue la motivación inicial de salir de tu país. Entonces, bien, gracias, Lucas. Súper constante y súper conciso, súper. Bueno, ahora, Vale, si nos puedes contar un poco más. Bueno, si nos puedes contar. Espera, tu micrófono, no te escuchamos.
Listo, ya, ¿me escuchan? ¿Sí?
Sí.
Bueno, la primera vez que yo salí de México tenía 18 años. Yo acababa de terminar la preparatoria y estaba un poco en busca de qué iba a ser de mi vida a futuro. Así es que tampoco llevaba mucho tiempo de haberme iniciado en el malabarismo, llevaba como 1 año y medio por mucho, y realmente lo que quería en ese momento era pues salir de México, era viajar, conocer otras partes del mundo, otras culturas y otras formas de vivir. Así es que con Raúl, que es mi pareja, planeamos hacer un viaje a Europa durante el verano por los 3 meses que tenemos permitidos como turistas. Y realmente el plan de ese viaje era que un muy buen amigo, Braulio, que ya había venido acá, nos había como contado las historias de lo que era la Convención Europea de Malabares y los espacios de circo aquí, los encuentros, y también se hablaba mucho en México de las escuelas de circo en Europa. Así es que el plan del viaje o la razón por la que hicimos ese viaje por primera vez era venir a vivir todo eso de primera mano y no solo por las historias que se nos contaban. Y también era un poco descubrir si queríamos o no hacer una escuela de circo, pero buscábamos ir a las escuelas de circo, conocer las instalaciones, preguntar los requisitos de entrada, qué costo tenían, cuál era el plan de estudios y todo eso. Así es que pues ya vinimos, vimos las escuelas, fuimos a la Convención Europea, que para mí fue muy importante porque aparte fue donde vi a un antipodista por primera vez y fue la razón por la que ahora soy antipodista. Y pues ya, esa es la historia.
Súper. Vamos con Marco, ¿puedes platicarnos?
Dale. Hola a todos, gracias por el espacio, un placer estar acá. Para mí, yo me fui de Argentina hace unos 17 años porque me quería formar, pero más que todo me quería desarrollar. Una cosa que yo sentía que no había era que si yo empezaba a trabajar o a ser un profesional de las disciplinas circenses en general y también de los malabares, que no iba a poder no solo desarrollarme entrenando, capacitándome en todo lo que es la parte de educación y pedagogía, pero sino también una vez que tengo ese conocimiento y esa información y esas herramientas, poder hacer el paso profesional a poder dedicarme a full con todas las posibilidades de lo que tenía. Entonces, en ese momento, hace más o menos 7 años, me fui para Alemania, ahí me pasé 7 años en Alemania, entre jonglier catecomen, varietés alemanes, convenciones, todas las convenciones que hubo y que había en Europa, convenciones europeas, IJA, WJF, todo lo que había en ese momento. Después de ahí seguí formándome y creciendo. Me fui a vivir a Canadá 3 años para desarrollar el encuentro con la rueda CIR, que también lo que hizo fue que de malabarista pasé a ser un artista multidisciplinario. y de ser un malabarista pasé a ser un intérprete en la compañía Fincipasca, en la cual trabajo hace 7 años, que es diferente, porque un intérprete es alguien que interpreta la visión de un director. Y hoy yo estoy trabajando como artista, pero como intérprete de un director que hace puestas en escena. Hay un poquito para contarla rápido.
Súper. Gracias, Marco. En esta, creo que me parece que voy yo, sí. Bueno, pues un poco en lo que platicaba Valeria, nuestras historias van un poco ligadas. Mi motivación principal para salir del país eran esas leyendas que se nos contaban, pero para mí la leyenda más grande o lo que yo necesitaba ver en ese momento de mi vida era ver a alguien hacer 7 clavas, tal cual así. Y bueno, o sea, quería ver a malabaristas como mutantes o malabaristas muy de un nivel muy alto, y como bajo este punto creo un proyecto para un apoyo en mi país, con el cual el proyecto era hacer un acto de cable flojo, comenzar a trabajar el cable flojo para fusionar las dos cosas, el cable flojo con los malabares, pero también el proyecto tenía que ver con, como decía Valeria, ir a las escuelas de Europa a conocer cómo eran, porque mucho se decía, pero en ese momento, por lo menos en México, no había ningún malabarista que hubiera hecho la escuela que pudiera decirme, no, es que es así y así y así. Entonces teníamos la necesidad de verlo por nuestros propios ojos. También teníamos mucha curiosidad de ir a una convención europea que todo el mundo decía que eran súper chidas, y pues la verdad es que sí, o sea, eso se cumplió y es uno de los mejores momentos de mi vida. Pero básicamente la razón por la que salí de mi país en ese momento fue para buscar a otros malabaristas, ¿no? Para buscar otras visiones y para ver qué se hacía por otras partes del mundo. Y bueno, esa es la razón principal de por qué me fui. Y bueno, por último tenemos a Sombra. ¿Te puedo decir Sombra?
Sí, claro.
A Sombra.
Ya. Yo me fui de Chile por una razón muy esencial, que tenía muchas ganas de evolucionar en lo que estaba haciendo. ¿Por qué? Porque pienso que acá en Chile, bueno, yo ahora estoy acá en Chile, hace 4 años, hay poca información. Entonces yo llegué a un momento donde empecé a bloquear con las prácticas y no encontraba a referentes, no encontraba técnicas distintas o personas que estuvieran desarrollando otras cosas. Y empecé a informarme también justamente por las convenciones, por las escuelas, ciertos referentes. Y luego hice la escuela de Jacques Lecoq, que fue la segunda razón un poco por la que me decidí a viajar a Francia. Porque él es un maestro francés y en un momento me dije, la mejor forma de descubrir la pedagogía y de por qué esta pedagogía es así, era viajando a Francia. Y decidí viajar a Francia, donde hice la formación del Lido, iba por 2 años prácticamente y después me quedé viviendo 10 años
En París, ¿no?
en Toulouse.
En Toulouse, perdón.
Toulouse.
Bien, súper, gracias. Bueno, ¿alguien tiene algo que aportar en relación a esto? ¿O podemos continuar? ¿Todo bien? Bueno, pues en relación a esta pregunta, ahora me gustaría que me dijeran por qué decidieron quedarse a vivir en el extranjero. Si es un poco lo mismo, pues solo pues, repitámoslo. Bueno, ¿por qué decidieron quedarse a vivir en el extranjero y continuar su carrera allá? Bueno, desde allá y no desde su país. Algunos ya más o menos dijeron, pero bueno, vamos a ver si hay algo más que se pueda aportar. Aquí puedes empezar, Sombra.
Aquí. Justamente, claro, con esas ganas, esa curiosidad en el fondo de poder desarrollarme o desarrollar la técnica de los malabares, llevarla aún más lejos. Lo más flagrante que encontré en Europa, en el fondo, fue las diferencias en las prácticas. Por ejemplo, aquí en Latinoamérica venía de un contexto donde todos los malabaristas hacían muchos objetos, en el fondo, y ese era el referente como de ser un buen malabarista, lanzar muchas cosas, muchos objetos. Después llegué a Francia y el referente era completamente el contrario. El referente de ser bueno era hacer malabares con un objeto, por ejemplo. Entonces, ese contraste que me pareció muy extraño en un principio, a la larga finalmente termina siendo súper interesante porque uno se va dando cuenta también cómo las personas en relación a sus culturas y a principalmente van adaptando sus técnicas y yo me fui nutriendo de eso, yo hoy día considero que soy un poco híbrido en ese sentido, porque vengo de una escuela que es, se podría decir, clásica, y aprendí también lo que es el otro lado que se podría decir que es contemporáneo, que es más artístico. Mm, no sé si respondí muy bien a la pregunta.
Bueno, pues sí, me gustaría saber un poco de, ¿crees que esto lo hubieras podido lograr en tu país o definitivamente no?
Siendo optimista, pienso que se podría haber logrado. Se podría haber logrado con mucha, ahí está la gran diferencia, con mucha fuerza, con mucho ímpetu, con mucho curiosidad y con mucha valor también de poder, en un contexto donde se hacen las cosas de una cierta manera, proponer otras cosas. Y es lo que estoy viendo hoy día, que un poco lo que propone la compañía Sombra es eso, es realmente poder educar al público desde otros lugares acá en Chile. Pero claro, yo creo que uno siente esas cosas y también por eso viajé a buscar otros referentes para poder entender otras cosas y lograr, claro, en un principio era avanzar más rápido y después uno va nutriendo y va entendiendo otras cosas que son súper valiosas también para la evolución de lo que hacemos.
Gracias, Sombra. Bueno, ahora, Marco, ¿nos puedes platicar un poco de esto? ¿Quieres que te repita la pregunta?
Dale, repetí la pregunta así también para
Un poco que
todos.
contestaste con la primera respuesta, pero bueno, ¿por qué decidiste quedarte a vivir en el extranjero y continuar desarrollando tu carrera desde allá y no desde tu país?
Bien, me salen muchos temas a la vez, porque justo ahora te estoy hablando desde Argentina. Bueno, creo que a todos nos agarra en nuestro país natal de alguna manera, todo un tiempo de reinventarse. Lo primero que me sale es, yo hace más o menos unos 10 años que estoy tratando de volver a Argentina, ¿sí? Mirando todo esto que es Latinoamérica. Y me encuentro con situaciones muy complejas, porque por un lado trabajo en los festivales más grandes del mundo con esta compañía para la que trabajo, que es hermosa. Por otro lado, o sea, voy a contarles cosas como contradictorias para esta respuesta, porque estoy como tirado medio Tupac Amaru, un poquito de cada lado. Lo que va sucediendo es que en Argentina el artista es un gladiador. Por eso, Sombra, comparto tanto lo del valor. O sea, ser artista en Latinoamérica, uno te tiene que correr por la sangre. Ser malabarista, ser artista. Es como llevar un estandarte casi todos los días, como una bandera ¿sí? de esto que es el arte. Y todavía dentro del trabajo que me está tocando vivir a mí, mi experiencia profesional, hay mucho del trabajo sobre la vulnerabilidad. Y para poder estar vulnerable en escena, se necesita también un público que te cuida, ¿sí? Una estructura social, cultural, económica, política. Entonces creo que es una respuesta que justo a mí me toca muy de cerca, porque siento que en Argentina estoy haciendo proyectos desde fundaciones internacionales, desde asociaciones civiles en Argentina, creaciones de nuevos objetos circenses, ¿sí? De esculturas cinéticas que usamos en nuevas creaciones, y me cuesta muchísimo desde el estilo y forma de vida que tengo en el exterior al estilo y forma de vida que tengo cuando estoy en Argentina. Así que hoy por hoy te puedo decir que estoy un poquito en un lado, un poquito en el otro, y que siento y que vivo la diferencia de ambas, y que no creo que me toque a mí vivir en una Argentina donde haya posibilidades como para que yo pueda estar desarrollándome como artista de una forma tranquila, por así decirlo. Así que espero que para las futuras generaciones, una o dos, nosotros que ya estamos un poquito más grandes, o por lo menos me lo digo por mí, podamos generar un suelo fértil y de comunicación para los que vienen.
Súper, gracias Marco. Bueno, yo tengo algo que decir, pero después. Valeria, ¿nos puedes platicar qué pasa con...?
Bueno, yo me quedé a vivir en Inglaterra, que es donde estoy ahora, y llevo los 2 años anteriores, porque la verdad es que porque se me presentó la oportunidad, se me ofreció aquí un trabajo y yo decidí tomarlo. Para ese entonces llevábamos ya 4 años que cada verano veníamos de Europa a buscar seguirnos formando, compartiendo, yendo a las convenciones, a los encuentros. Y en ese momento, cuando viajábamos, yo no podía entrenar el antipodismo porque de por sí viajar con todo nuestro equipo ya era pesado, como para aparte traer mi silla o mi trinca más todas mis cosas de antipodismo. Entonces era un momento donde yo ya quería establecerme en algún lugar, y sobre todo también quería empezar la creación de mi acto de antipodismo. Entonces se presenta esta oportunidad donde nos ofrecen ser los encargados de una escuela juvenil aquí en Inglaterra, y pues fue un momento donde yo tuve que valorar qué era lo que quería, si quería tomar ese trabajo, cuáles eran los pros o los contras, si eso me iba a hacer feliz o era lo que quería para mí, para mi carrera en ese momento, y sobre todo si quería vivir en el extranjero o regresar a vivir a México. Y después de pensarlo como todo eso, decidí que quería quedarme aquí, que era una experiencia que me iba a hacer crecer, que ser maestra era algo que yo no había vivido y que quería o tenía ganas de experimentarlo, que aparte me daba como cosas buenas como el tener un espacio donde entrenar, donde crear, un poco más seguridad aquí que en México como mujer, y pues me quedé aquí y aquí he estado los últimos 2 años.
Gracias, Vale. Lucas, ¿nos puedes platicar si tienes algo más que aportar en ese sentido?
Yo creo que me quedé en Europa los 5 años que estuve, como por una mezcla de razones personales y laborales. Y tampoco, y siempre con la intención de un poco compaginar, intentar estar en los 2 lugares a la vez, creo. Y es algo que creo que todavía intento. Que quizás es más fácil decirlo que hacerlo, porque hay las agendas. Pero sí, un poco eso, creo.
Bien, gracias, Lucas. Y bueno, de mi parte, pues, una es que en lo que platican Carlos y Marco estoy totalmente de acuerdo. Eso es como un paréntesis. Creo que la pasión y el valor que tiene el artista latinoamericano no se compara en un general con lo que he encontrado yo en otras partes, sobre todo de Europa. Por ejemplo, en el Medio Oriente me saltó que era muy similar en algunos, bueno, estuve en Líbano y encontré mucha similitud de los malabaristas ahí con los malabaristas latinos. Creo que la pasión que tiene el malabarista latino es una pasión demasiado fuerte y también responde a que nosotros nos jugamos en Latinoamérica las cosas en el modo difícil, ¿no? Y si logras como superar ese modo difícil, pues hay pocas cosas que no vayas a poder hacer. Pero bueno, mi punto es que me saltó lo que dijeron y comparto que la pasión para mí, personalmente, Raúl Cañas, en Latinoamérica es muy fuerte y eso es algo que me encanta. Y un poco en relación a la pregunta que hice, por una parte estaban las razones profesionales por las cuales decidí quedarme o seguir mi carrera en Europa. Creo que estaba como con motivaciones estaba con la motivación o con ganas de afrontar nuevos retos. Llevaba ya una carrera desde mi punto buena en México y tenía la curiosidad de saber si podía también hacer algo interesante con mi trabajo en otras latitudes, no solo en Europa, en otras partes del mundo. Entonces, eso me motivó a buscar nuevas oportunidades en otros países. Y bueno, eso es por una parte. Y también en la parte más personal, como decía Valeria, después de viajar y regresar al país, regresar, me di cuenta que el estar en México y sobre todo en la Ciudad de México hacía que llevara una vida que no estaba muy convencido de tener en ese momento. Siempre que regresaba a la ciudad me daba cuenta que la ciudad terminaba consumiendo todo de mí, tanto mi energía, mi tiempo, mi motivación, y era algo que en ese momento y en este momento no quería justo, o creo que se había terminado esa fuerza, o no esa fuerza, esas ganas de luchar contra todo eso. Llevaba ya varios años haciéndolo, y te estoy hablando no solo en cuestiones de malabares. Por ejemplo, era salir en la bici diario y diario sentir que podía no llegar a mi casa, ¿no? Cuestiones como de la ciudad que yo ya no me sentía tan cómodo, por las cuales también decidí como buscar opciones en otro lugar. Entonces eso, por una parte estaba a nivel profesional las ganas de probar nuevos retos, y por otro lado como el agobio de la ciudad que ya no quería sentir en mi vida. Y bueno, eso es de mi parte. Si alguien tiene algo más que decir en ese sentido, los escucho. ¿Todo bien? Súper, pues vamos bien. Pues vamos con la tercera. Esta me parece bastante interesante. Y vamos a ver. ¿Cómo ha sido para ti trabajar en otros países del mundo comparado con tu país? Entonces, Marco, ¿podrías empezar con esta?
Sí, claro, un placer empezar con esa. Qué pregunta fuerte, porque creo que cuando uno trabaja en su país, trabaja o sea, cuando hace espectáculos, ¿sí? ¿Lo hace para quiénes? Los amigos de la infancia, mamá, papá, el hermano, la tía, el primo, ¿eh? Antes de ir a hacer el show tenías el perrito que te miraba así, el tuyo, tu cusquito chiquito. O sea, cuando uno está en su casa haciendo espectáculo, es como la plus ultra. Ahí sí que es la que ya es tremenda. Recuerdo todavía, después de estar casi 4 años haciendo tour con un espectáculo que se llamaba 12 Pieces of Stuff, que hicimos como 8 países en Europa, después fuimos para Estados Unidos, todo así autónomo. ¿Sí? Autónomo quiere decir una producción realmente hecha así a todo corazón. Y cuando hicimos el tour en Argentina, que directamente mi madre era la que nos llevaba, nuestra tour manager era mi madre que manejaba el auto mientras yo dormía entre un pueblito y el otro. Esto es. Así que de eso a tener que bajarme de un avión con un cartelito que dice mi nombre y voy a un hotel y después entro a un teatro y está todo montado y abro un road case y saco mis cosas para hacer el show, que es hermoso. Las culturas distintas, los países distintos, conectar con la gente, desde el backstage, el público, las culturas, el humor de la gente, lo que los asombra. A veces solamente de verte ya es como, mira, un argentino, le digo, sí, hola, mira, no hice nada, es así. Y ya por estar en otro lugar del mundo suceden tantas cosas. Así que creo que la diferencia más hermosa es un poquito eso de que nadie es profeta en su tierra. A mí me sigue todavía el día de hoy, que me es mucho más fácil hacer espectáculo afuera, no sé, en el Pan Festival de New York, que estar en casa o acá en los pueblitos rurales donde hacemos presentaciones y hay 20 niños con su padre y su madre que dejaron los caballos atados para poder venir, y todas las celebro, todas, la verdad que cada momento que estoy en escena le tengo mucho respeto al escenario. Ahí va.
Gracias, Marco. Bueno, a ver, voy yo. ¿Qué las diferencias? Bueno, aquí quiero aclarar un poco que antes de comenzar a trabajar en el extranjero, yo tenía una carrera ya iniciada en México. Había trabajado de todo tipo de cosas, desde lo más como básico a ya una compañía más profesional, pero bueno, pasé por todo tipo de experiencias que todo esto lo pasé como sin una ayuda o sin una guía de algún... Yo no fui a ninguna escuela o no me formé en en un lugar que me pudieran guiar en esto. Entonces mi punto es que durante ese periodo yo cometí muchos errores, muchos errores. Entonces lo que fue mi carrera en México me enseñó mucho de lo que tenía que hacer y qué no hacer para cuando yo me salí del país, pues todo fue mucho más sencillo para mí. Pero fue sencillo por todo lo que aprendí haciéndolo mal o sufriendo, por alguna forma decirlo, en México. Bueno, en México, como en muchas partes del mundo, o sea, en este proceso aprendí que hay mucha gente que, no sé, se aprovecha de tu trabajo, que hay mafias, cosas que no están muy buenas del país y que sobre todo, quiero aclarar que no es que solo existan en México, existen en todo el mundo. Pero bueno, todo eso me enseñó a ser como un mejor artista en términos de cómo vender mi trabajo, cómo defender mi trabajo, cómo hacer apreciar y valorar mi trabajo. Y entonces esto hizo que cuando yo trabajara en el extranjero, igual seguía aprendiendo. Yo fui a diferentes contratos en China, en Turquía y en diferentes países que no son los contratos más buenos que he hecho, pero que me enseñaron muchísimo en términos o sea, que más que económicamente me dejaron muchísimo aprendizaje de lo que es ser un artista y de lo que es, de cómo es ser un artista a nivel como internacional. Entonces, solo aclarando esto, pues sí, el trabajo en Europa ahora ha sido mucho más sencillo. Estando aquí en Inglaterra es todo más sencillo. Con el Soleil, pues obviamente es una compañía que te respalda y te hace todo más sencillo. Y también un poco como lo que decía Marco, me gusta resaltar que cada país es diferente, reaccionan diferente, culturalmente somos diferentes, entonces es muy interesante también trabajar en otros países para ver esto. Por ejemplo, una anécdota como curiosa, que cuando fui a China, era muy curioso porque era un público a la vez muy exigente y a la vez muy entusiasta. Entonces, si yo hacía bien el espectáculo, eran muy entusiastas se tomaban fotos y era como muy grande la reacción de bravo, bravo. Pero si yo me equivocaba un poquito más de lo que ellos aceptaban, entonces pasaba lo opuesto, ¿no? Se enojaban literalmente y eran reacciones como más hacia el desprecio. Entonces, no sé si toda China sea así, la experiencia que yo tuve fue en ese sentido. Y bueno, mi punto es que al final el estar en diferentes países te enseña mucho, pero lo que quiero resaltar es de que sí, fue más fácil, pero no creo que solo por el hecho de estar en Europa es porque es que haya sido más fácil, solo porque es Europa. Creo que en todos lados hay cosas buenas y malas, y tuve la suerte de aprender las malas en México y de poder aprovecharlas en otras partes del mundo. Y bueno, eso es mi comentario. Ahora, si nos puedes platicar, Lucas.
Yo creo que en general es genial tener la oportunidad de actuar en distintos contextos, sea Europa, sea Sudamérica, sea donde sea. Entonces sí, creo que ya a un nivel personal, un poco siguiendo lo que dice Marco, creo que para mí fue importante tener un momento en el que yo sé que cuando vengo acá a Perú me voy a presentar con un público al que conozco a un nivel personal. Y creo que fue importante tener un momento en mi vida en el que no tenía ninguna relación más allá del escenario con el público. Quizás porque eso me ayudó a probar más cosas que no hubiera probado con un público al que conocía más. Creo que hoy en día realmente agradezco tener a mi familia en escena, bueno, en el público y a mis amigos, pero por mucho tiempo tuve una relación bastante conflictiva con eso. Entonces, eso.
Te limitabas.
Totalmente.
Sí, está interesante. Vale.
Bueno, yo la verdad es que lamentablemente no trabajé mucho en México. Es algo que me gustaría hacer más. Solo estuve con una compañía de circo contemporáneo y después de eso fue que salí. Así es que mi experiencia en mi país no es muy amplia. Pero concuerdo con lo que dicen, que no sé, creo que lo bonito de presentar en diferentes países es justo que cada cultura es diferente y la forma en la que reacciona el público, te recibe a ti como tu acto es diferente, y justo eso, que de cada una aprendes algo y aparte vives experiencias diferentes que se quedan contigo pues para siempre. Y también, como dice Lucas, que creo que para mí lo más bonito de cuando estuve en México es justo que pues personas que son importantes para mí, mi familia, mis amigos, podían ir a verme, ir a ver lo que hago, a diferencia de cuando estoy acá, que puedo presentar en cosas que son importantes en el medio o para mí, pero a fin de cuentas no las puedo compartir con ellos. Entonces, a pesar de que pues no deja de ser algo muy padre o muy bonito para mí, a veces sí me hace falta esa parte de compartirlo con alguien.
Gracias, Vale. Sombra.
Sí, me he dado cuenta que los espectáculos, bueno, he tenido la oportunidad de presentarme también en varios países, y me he dado cuenta de una cosa esencial e importante, que creo que en todos los países la gente recibe de buena manera los espectáculos, el arte o lo que hacemos. No sé si pasará con todos los tipos de arte, pero con el malabarismo, el circo, las artes circenses, digo, en general, son bien recibidas. Eso me pasó en Europa y acá en Chile, en países de Latinoamérica, que son completamente contrastantes a los de Europa o de otras partes de Estados Unidos o de Canadá, por ejemplo. Yo creo que el problema, la dificultad está en uno mismo. Yo creo que cuando uno espera, cuando va a los distintos contextos, espera un reconocimiento de lo que uno está haciendo, es ahí donde se crea el problema. ¿Por qué? Porque en el fondo uno está, en vez de querer compartir algo, que es la esencia un poco de lo que hacemos todos nosotros, pienso que nace de una emoción o de un querer, de una curiosidad. Ese es como el puntapié inicial de lo que hacemos. Si eso se valoriza y se comparte realmente desde la sinceridad, yo creo que no se crearían los conflictos. Y el público pasaría entonces a ser un público transversal. Eso principalmente.
Gracias, Sombra. Bueno, a ver, tengo dos preguntas, pero creo que no tendremos mucho tiempo para contestar las dos, así que les preguntaré qué opinan. por una parte me gustaría hablar de una posible convención latinoamericana de malabarismo. Y por otra parte, me gustaría platicar rápidamente de la formación escolar de un malabarista. Si hay necesidad, o sea, hablar un poco de las escuelas y la formación que tiene el malabarista latino. Entonces, ¿qué les gustaría más platicar primero? Porque no sé si va a dar tiempo. La segunda, la formación. Las dos. La primera y la segunda. Ok, vamos rápido. Todos conocemos la EJC. Bueno, la mayoría de malabaristas conocerán o habrán ido o habrán escuchado lo que es una European Juggling Convention, ¿no? Que es esta convención que se hace cada año en un país diferente de Europa. ¿Ustedes creen que sea posible que esto llegue a pasar alguna vez en Latinoamérica? ¿Y qué creen que podemos hacer para que ese proyecto pudiera como algún día realizarse? Bueno, no sé, ¿alguien que quiere empezar? A ver, empiezo yo. Bueno, a ver, Lucas.
Yo creo que como no faltan ganas, siento que hay una comunidad relativamente fuerte. Les pregunto a los demás, quizás me parece que lo que falta es alguien que haga la organización, que es algo que es gigante y que, bueno, alguien tendrá que hacerlo. Pero no sé si a nivel personal hay mucho más que se pueda hacer.
Ok, gracias. ¿Alguien? Vamos a ir, en vez de ir por orden, ahora abro el panel a como ir platicándolo más a como nos vayan haciendo. Si no, pues ya iremos uno por uno. ¿Vale?
Sí, concuerdo con Lucas que pues lo más importante es justo la organización, que es algo que pues es un trabajo grande, o sea, es algo pesado. Pero yo creo que sería algo que estaría súper bien que pasara en Latinoamérica. Digo, sé que no va a ser igual de fácil que aquí en Europa, porque a fin de cuentas en Latinoamérica sí hay fronteras que cruzar, se necesitan tal vez visados, no sé, no hay trenes que conecten los países tan fácil, pero creo que es algo que ayudaría al malabarismo y a los malabaristas latinoamericanos a tal vez hacer una comunidad más unida entre nosotros.
Gracias. Y bueno, sí, complementando eso, estoy totalmente de acuerdo con los dos, con Lucas y con Vale. Por una parte, creo que ganas no faltan. Concuerdo que el principal problema, aunque el otro que menciona Vale, que también estoy de acuerdo, es que para eso hace falta organización. Y hasta cierto punto me parece que en Latinoamérica no tenemos aún esa... O sea, a pesar de que el gremio del malabarismo es un gremio aparentemente unido y organizado, tal vez entre países latinoamericanos no lo es como debería para que este tipo de cosas se empezaran a florecer, ¿no? Entonces, pienso yo que, no sé, como malabaristas o como, sí, personalmente por eso creo que este tipo de proyectos donde se abre al diálogo entre diferentes países latinoamericanos es interesante y creo que una es empezar por el diálogo para que las ideas comiencen a surgir y tal vez por ahí aparece una voz de, yo quiero comenzar a hacerlo y tal vez con eso va creciendo todo y se va haciendo poco a poco. Es un hecho que para mí también bastante complejo la idea de pensar, o sea, aquí estando en Europa es muy fácil, literalmente puedes decir como voy a París y regreso, ¿no? Y tal vez en algunos países del sur sí puedes como ir fácilmente de Chile a Argentina y regresar, pero mi punto es que, como dice ella, las fronteras y todo esto lo hace más difícil, además de que el poder adquisitivo en general en Latinoamérica pues no es el mismo del que hay en Europa, que creo que principalmente este también es uno de los problemas, o sea, que no hay recursos de parte, o tal vez sí hay, pero no los estamos buscando o no se están peleando para traer recursos tanto del gobierno o de particulares. Entonces, pues sí, mi sueño es que algún día haya una convención de latinoamericana de malabares y que explote, porque explotaría, pero increíblemente. ¿Alguien más quiere aportar algo? ¿No? ¿Nos vamos con la siguiente? Marco.
Voy a tratar de hacer todas las preguntas en una, así ya medio como la última que hablo. primero que todo, educación, si tomar la decisión de hacer escuela de circo o no. Yo no tomé escuela de circo, yo soy autodidacta, me formé en la plaza, en la calle, desde Plaza Ñuñoa, Parque Forestal, Plaza Francia, Catacomen, Sossenerstrasse, los parques allá en el Prat del Llobregat. Fórmense, si hay los que estén mirando, o mi opinión o mi consejo para cualquier malabarista o artista que se quiere dedicar, primero de todo, edúquense y fórmense en todas las escuelas variables posibles. Yo considero que es un montón. De ahí voy al segundo punto. Fijémonos nosotros latinoamericanos que nos hemos formado, entre comillas, en el exterior o dentro de Latinoamérica en convenciones. Y si nuestras formaciones son 2 horas con Lucas, 2 horas con Sombra, 2 horas con Raúl, y eso es la información que tenemos, estoy comparando lo que son las escuelas de circo con ir a una convención y volverte con un montón de información para entrenar los próximos 4 meses. ¿Sí? O sea, estoy trayendo desde como una convención europea, como puede ser que para todos nosotros, a mí también fue mi sueño ir a la convención europea, era mi sueño participar de la gala, y era mi sueño dar talleres ahí. De repente, bueno, se armaron un montón de cosas hermosas y eso pasó por suerte, y conocí lo que con años se desarrolló esta tribu y cultura urbana que son los malabaristas. Y así fue que terminé en la Brisbane Convention, en la Sydney Convention, estuve en Israel por estar ahí con los chicos jugando al fútbol juggling, que después encima lo llevamos a Brasil y jugábamos con mandarinas, bueno, miles de entramados hermosos. Pero, y yendo al tema de la Convención Latinoamericana, interesante es que a la falta de formación y educación tenemos que ir a buscarla en otros lados, y al no poder entrar en estructuras, vamos a estas convenciones que es hermoso y se conocen y se intercambian un montón de cosas. Interesante es, para nombrar otra cosa, cómo somos latinos dentro de un foro de la International Juggling Association que está basada en Estados Unidos. Entonces, yo me pregunto y trato de nombrar, ¿qué es lo que nos falta? ¿Dónde es? Porque las ganas, la pasión las tenemos. Más, siento que lo que nos falta es estructura. Y eso es la necesidad para mí más importante, o que yo veo que para pensar una convención latinoamericana, como esto, la realidad de las cosas, no hay recursos. Todavía el circo y el malabarismo en países como México, como Chile, como Brasil, ya tienen una imagen que es interesante. Pero hay otros países que en Argentina se está peleando por la Ley Nacional de Circo, por ejemplo, todavía, ¿sí? Pero más allá de un montón de cosas, siento que Latinoamérica está escalonada. Latinoamérica no es somos todos juntos Latinoamérica. Hay países que están en distintos periodos y distintos momentos de lo que es este circo contemporáneo, malabares contemporáneos, y creo que hoy sí tenemos herramientas, aunque sea para hacer diálogos virtuales, encuentros. Ya se ha hablado de la Asociación Latinoamericana de Malabaristas hace 2 años, no se pudo llevar a cabo. Ya se ha hablado de empezar a amalgamar, y entendemos mucho de las situaciones, entendemos que muchas de las cosas que pasan es los viáticos son carísimos, empezaríamos desde la necesidad más que desde el compartir. Entonces los artistas que estarían llegando no podrían ni estar dando un poco de su tiempo porque estarían en otros contactos. El artista latinoamericano es artista, metteur en scène, iluminador, escenógrafo, tour manager. Es una situación compleja, y para tirar una más positiva y redondear, creo que hoy se presenta esto de que si nos estamos hablando y en esta situación de transformarnos ante esta situación mundial, creo que la Convención Latinoamericana, para darle así un toque, podría empezar siendo más virtual, y que desde ahí podamos empezar a conectar y desde ahí generar diálogos. Esa era mi opinión de todas las preguntas.
Gracias, Marco. Sombra, Lucas. ¿Nada? ¿De la escuela o de las convenciones? Ya no tenemos mucho tiempo, tenemos escasos 15 minutos.
Muy cortito. Lo de la escuela, pienso que no es necesario tener una escuela para ser un gran artista. Pienso que sí es importante tener mentores, personas que a uno lo puedan guiar en el camino, y estos mentores se pueden encontrar en muchas situaciones, en muchos contextos. Lo complicado está en que esa relación alumno-mentor tiene que ser íntima, tiene que ser real para que se pueda desarrollar en el tiempo. Si no, pero lo de la escuela no creo que sea algo absoluto.
Vale, o Lucas, yo tengo algo que decir, pero sí. No, un poco en el tema de la escuela, bueno, yo también soy autodidacta, yo no hice ninguna escuela, lo mismo, convenciones, amigos y todo esto. Sin embargo, sí creo que la escuela puede ser una herramienta muy buena para las personas que... yo nunca hice escuela, una, porque no me sentía cómodo dentro de una institución aprendiendo, nunca me sentí muy cómodo así con alguien o teniendo que seguir las reglas que alguien me decía para... En general no me gustaban mucho las escuelas. Por eso tampoco decidí hacer escuelas, pero creo que las escuelas son muy útiles en ciertos casos. Una es que, por ejemplo, para mí fue muy difícil aprender el cable porque no tenía espacio y no tenía lugares donde hacer cable flojo. Entonces, por ejemplo, una escuela te aporta ventajas muy buenas en términos de tener un espacio siempre para entrenar. Y eso es algo que es invaluable, ¿no? El tener diario un espacio para ir y hacer, mismo malabares, porque sabemos que no es lo mismo hacer aros o clavas en el aire, o sea, con el viento afuera, con el sol en la cara o así. Digo, se hace y se resiste y lo hacemos. Pero el tener un espacio también cerrado, pues la verdad es que se aprecia. Y por ejemplo, con el cable en una escuela me hubiera sido mucho más fácil tenerlo ahí, montarlo, ir a entrenar y todo esto. Entonces, creo que las escuelas son una opción muy, muy buena para los que se quieran formar en el malabarismo. También creo que hay que apoyar a las escuelas locales porque mucha gente, por lo menos en México, sale como de México a formarse en escuelas preparatorias en otros países, cuando las escuelas en México, las escuelas preparatorias, pues son de una calidad bastante buena, que no le piden nada a escuelas europeas, por lo menos a nivel preparatoria. Después en escuelas superiores, pues sí es un hecho que hay escuelas en Europa o en otros países como Canadá que sí tienen un camino más recorrido que les permite tener cosas o aportarte cosas que tal vez las escuelas en México por lo menos pues no lo pueden hacer, ¿no? Por ejemplo, si tú haces una escuela en Canadá, pues seguro que sales con más contactos y te ve gente que puede llegar a darte trabajo y eso es algo súper bueno, ¿no? Bueno, pero para finalizar a pesar de que no hice escuela, sí recomiendo a los malabaristas que tengan la inquietud de hacer una escuela, que por lo menos lo intenten. Recomiendo que si quieren hacer una escuela preparatoria porque no están seguros de qué es lo que quieren estudiar, si malabares o quieren hacer otra disciplina o así, apoyen a las escuelas nacionales y también porque es muy caro vivir y hacer una escuela en Europa y hasta cierto punto, pues si no te sobra el dinero, no sé qué tanto valga la fuerza del súper esfuerzo que es pagar una escuela y pagar la vida en Europa en lugar de ir a la escuela preparatoria en tu país. Y que, bueno, si quieren ir un poco más allá, las escuelas superiores que las busquen, porque pues sí, para mí, desde mi punto de vista, sí te aportan algo más que solo el ir a la escuela. Y bueno, con eso yo termino. Entonces, ¿alguien más tiene algo que decir? O tenemos 5 minutos, ¿les parece? Vemos si alguien mandó alguna pregunta, porque no sé cómo va a funcionar, si van a llegar a cortarme o qué, porque les recuerdo que después de esto va la cascada de estrellas, quédense a verlo, que va a estar súper chido. Hay malabaristas de todo el mundo de súper calidad. Pero bueno, si no, de cualquier forma agradecer que hayan estado aquí tanto viéndonos como a ustedes los panelistas. Me hubiera gustado de cada tema hablar un poco más y un poco, no debatir, pero compartir más entre nosotros, porque siento que fue como muy rápido y como que no, o personalmente me hubiera gustado un poco más, como de diálogo. Pero bueno, creo que es el primer paso de algo que yo invito a que no solo sea desde Voces del Malabarismo, ¿no? Entre más cosas haya pasando de diálogo entre entre malabaristas o tal vez de otras disciplinas o lo que sea, para mí mejor. Los invito a que sigan el canal, bueno, la página. Y bueno, pues supongo que estaremos acabando perfectamente en el tiempo. Me dio mucho gusto platicar con ustedes. Les agradezco a todos, Lucas, Sombra, Marco, Vale.
Muchas gracias.
Si alguno de ustedes tiene algo más que decir, pues por favor, antes de irnos. Nada, todo. Pues entonces supongo que terminamos porque ya no da tiempo de contestar otra pregunta. Así que nada, pues muchas gracias. Y pues nada, sigan el programa de la programación de la IJA. Espero poder hablar después con cada uno individualmente y pues saludos hasta donde estén, pásenla bien.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Chao.
Heck, hello.
Así, bueno, muchas gracias por la presentación. Es un gran gusto a todos de nosotros y todo el mundo latinoamericano y el resto del mundo. Gracias mucho por sus presentaciones de las cosas latinoamericanas. Los todos. Es un gran gusto a mí que el mundo ha sido un poquito más pequeño por sus hacimientos. Muchas gracias otra vez.
Gracias.
And with that said, I'll hand it off to Biz for our outro in English to this panel and our intro to the Cascade of Stars.
Right on. Thanks, Richard. And just sum it all up for me in English, what they said, Richard, real quick. The whole thing. No, never mind, never mind. I wish I did understand that. I don't have any Spanish, but I'm really glad that panel was able to happen. I think that something that we're all realizing a lot more this year is that we really are all in one global community of jugglers. And the more reaching across language and national barriers that we can do on our own and in any way that we can, we're just all going to be better jugglers for it and have a better impact on our own communities and on communities around the world. So that was really great. How have you been liking the online festival? I think it's been much better than I could have hoped for. I think it's really, really cool. If you go to juggle.org, on every page of juggle.org, there is a donate button. And I really understand a lot of people are having a rough time with what's happening in the world. I know that I'm out of work, but if you're not, and you know, one of the funniest things ever was when Jason did the line during his routine about how he was there to fight tooth and nail for the cost of 1/2 of attending the juggling festival. I didn't see it live. It was so funny though. I still think about it. We all would have spent a lot of money attending the juggling festival, those of us who would have been there. And if you are in a position to kick back any part of that to the IJA, I can tell you for sure that money will not be frittered away on nonsense. It will be used to render assistance to fellow jugglers and leave us in a good position to resume what we had, all of our traditions, when we can all gather together again, but also hopefully to take some of the great things that we've had going on with this festival and the different things that we've had going on with this festival and bring those forward into the real world too. I'm talking about some of the panels, which have been just really, really different than what we've had before. I want to mention tomorrow's schedule, where we're going to have a feminism in juggling panel, and we're going to have a presentation of the championships. So a lot of times, you know, the Cascade of Stars, we go back to the gym, and then we party it out, and that's nearly the end. But tomorrow we're going to have some stuff, and I hope you'll check the schedule at juggle.org for that too. And now, coming up in half an hour, just 30 minutes from now, will be one of the best named shows in all of entertainment. The Cascade of Stars. Boy, I love the Cascade of Stars. There's going to be some great acts in it. I'm really excited to see it. But if you're watching it here in the Zoom room, you're going to have to get out of here. This won't be where it is. We're going to have in the chat over here, depending on where I am on your screen, sort of over there. Go ahead and join us on YouTube Live and whatever other channels we're broadcasting on. And I hope to see you all there. I know that we're all eagerly anticipating the act that we're going to see. If it's as good as the other shows that we've gotten to see this week, we're really in for a treat. Thanks a lot to every juggler who's watching. We miss you.